All right, what's up, everybody? We are on episode 4, Movies in the Minefield. This is our first Spooktober stream. I don't know who coined that term. I wish it was Jamie Hanshaw, but I could be wrong about that. Yeah, so we are going to be talking about one of my. I'm not a big horror fan. I will admit, I'm not like deep into horror movies. I've seen some I enjoyed, but I remember, I think it was back in 2011 when Scream 4 came out. I was dating this girl at the time who just like wanted to go see movies all the time. We saw some horrible movies, and I was pissed every time I walked out. I'm like, I can't believe I spent $20 on this garbage movie that I wish I'd never seen. But I'd never seen any of the Scream movies, but I was like, okay, I'll check out, Scream 4. And I really enjoyed it. I was like, this is a great movie. And then I went back and watched Scream 1 and 2, and then it was later on I watched Scream 3. And I didn't really catch a lot of what was going on because this would have been probably like 2012, 2013 maybe. And then it was a few years ago, maybe like 2018, 2019. I had a Scream marathon with this girl who I was in school with at the time. And we were both like really into the Scream movies. We're like, oh, well, we'll watch them. That's cool. And we did it over like, I don't know, 2 or 3 days or something, 2 days or something. And when we watched Scream 3, I remember there's a point where we both looked at each other. We're like, whoa. Because some of the things in this movie really, it's pretty revelatory, I think. And I mean, to consider this movie came out 23 years ago, right? It was 2000. And, so I like the films a lot. I have not seen the newest one. Has the newest one even come out yet? I think it did. I don't think Nev Campbell was in that one, so I think that's probably why I haven't seen it yet. I don't really know how you can do the films without her. And they didn't call it Scream 5. They just called it Scream, but whatever. Anyway, yeah, so we're gonna go ahead and just dive into it, and we're gonna bring in. My notes just about slid off. I'm going to bring in one of our regular co-hosts. He and Jerry from Exposing Powerful Lies. Shout out to Jerry. They are the two regulars over here. They frequently come on and I was going to say pilot the ship. I don't know if that would be the right metaphor. What doesn't matter. Anyway, it's y'all know him, y'all love him. It's Baselit Analyzer. If you're not familiar with his channel, you can there we go. You can check out his channel. Just click on his name in the title of the stream, and you can follow him on Instagram at based.lit.analyzer. That's like based with a Z. So welcome back. Good to have you again.
Hey, yes, thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you for having me.
Were you sitting at the Spirit Halloween store?
All the places all the way around. Yeah, I've had this since I was a teenager.
Oh, nice.
It still works. Can you believe this?
That is sick.
I used to carry around one of those buzzers, like a hand buzzer, like Jack Nicholson has in Batman. There's a store in Richmond called One Eye Jack's. That's like it's a bunch of people in the back playing World of Warcraft, but I bought a double-headed quarter there, and then a nickel with a nail in it, and then I nailed it in somewhere like at school. People were always trying to pick it up. And then I had one of those buzzers, and I would wear it everywhere. So whenever I had to shake someone's hand, I would shock them, with the buzzer.
Yeah,
anyway, I think I got that there. I also had a voice changer, which I can't find right now, but it was hello, Sydney. Hello, Sydney. Would you like to watch a scary movie? But it was the real thing.
Oh, that's cool.
But it was more of a Buffalo Bill voice.
Yeah, yeah.
Was she a great big fat person?
They should get a voice changer that can make you sound like I don't know, like Mike Lindell or Fran Drescher, just like random. I don't know who, like Tina Fey, just like walk up to people and just start talking like Tina Fey. I don't know. That'd be sick. Anyway, yeah. So I guess we'll just go ahead and jump into this one. As I'm sure you know by now, I always like to ask, what's your overall? What are your overall? I hate to say thoughts because that's so played out, but like, what's your overall take on the movie? What do you think of it?
Did you enjoy it? What are my overall thoughts? Yeah, I did enjoy this one. I really enjoyed this one. I thought this was great. I saw it in the cinema when it came out. It came out in February 2000. So this is post Y2K, pre Big Nine.
Mm-hmm.
And it's funny how it exists in this place, this kind of psychical place when you watch it, because it's got all of the millennium tropes and stuff, and it looks like, I mean, Parker Posey looks so ratchet as fuck in this movie, dude.
Oh, he's just terrible.
She looks terrible. Her hair's all mussed up. But it's got all of the actors of the 2000s in it, right? Early 2000s actors. And it's a fun movie. And it's funny that, it came out in February. February is kind of like the death spiral for movies, because they release movies then that it's too late for award season. Obviously, this wasn't going to, be up for an Oscar, but and it's too early for the summer season. But the movie the movie cost $40 million laundering, and it made $160 million worldwide. It's a big franchise.
Yeah.
So, and you can see why. I mean, it's Scream really capitalized on the teen horror trope, in a big way, because Scream is a high school movie, right?
Mm-hmm.
And and it's Wes Craven, and Wes Craven did this one as well. I mean, it's his sort of franchise, I guess. But there is a scene where they're kind of putting Freddy to death. There's a scene later on when they're inside the house, if you notice, where they're running in and they see all the props for all these Halloween, fake Halloween movies. But then the skeleton is wrapped he's wearing a Freddy sweater in the coffin.
I didn't pick up on that. Yeah, no, that's I realize that now. Yeah, it's a good point.
Yeah, I rewatched it today, and I was looking for, I couldn't remember. I was looking for tropes of when, directors will often put other movies to death, right, in their movie. Kind of like Shining. In The Shining, remember, he's at the beginning, he's riding they're in the yellow Volkswagen Beetle and the Ted Bundy mobile. I saw it on the TV, right? And in the book, it's a red bug. And there's a scene at the beginning where a red bug or a red beetle gets squashed. So people say that's Stanley Kubrick putting Stephen King's version of the story to death.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah. So, I mean, there's all kinds of that stuff in Kubrick, but yeah, this is a good movie, and it's great because it is the movie within the movie. There's a movie called Stab in the movie, and it's a great take on, it's a meta movie. And it's got the copycat killer, essentially. And the best part of the movie is Jamie Kennedy. I mean, he has a good cameo on a television screen through time. So his character's already dead, but he's got the best role in this movie. So it's very good.
Yeah, I think I really enjoyed that small role from Jamie Kennedy, and I actually, especially on this last rewatch that I just did yesterday, or started the day before yesterday. I had to finish it yesterday because I was telling BLA this. Whenever I watch movies, to do streams on them, it takes me forever to get through them because I have to keep pausing to make notes. Because I make probably way too detailed of notes on these. And so it'll take me sometimes hours to watch a relatively short movie. But anyway, one of the things...
I don't do that. I just watch it through and just do a Mozart mental note because I have a Spurg OCD mind for movies. So.
I used to do pretty well, so I probably shouldn't have to take this many notes. But, one thing that one thing I do like with this is it was Patrick Dempsey. I thought, especially in this rewatch, I thought he absolutely crushed this role. He that was one of the best performances in the movie because it's sort of a meta role in the sense that, and we can get into this later in as well, is that it's he's very sort of dramatic and theatrical, and it's he's playing a role. He's a person. I mean, he's playing Patrick Dempsey, the person, is playing a role, but it's Detective Kincaid, the character he's playing. It's he's playing a role because there's this scene where they're in his office. He's got old movie posters on his wall. I wrote down the titles of some of the books he has. It's film. What's it film?
Understanding film.
from the 30s. Yeah, understanding film. He's got a book on screenwriting on his desk. And there's a scene where Sydney asks him, like, what's your favorite scary movie? Kind of like, it's a sort of funny kind of quip. And he turns around and kind of like leans down, puts his hand down, gets his face right over hers and says, my life. And then like gets up and dramatically walks out of the room. And so, and you sort of see that where they get into a stand. We can get into, I don't want to give too much away too soon, but he gets, or I mean, people have probably already seen this, whatever, but there's a scene where him and Sydney get into like a standoff of sorts when she's not sure if he's Ghostface or not. And the way he responds to that situation is the way that like every stereotypical cop in a movie, when they're in like a two people pointing guns at each other, the cop and then the criminal or whatever, and he hands up like I'm going to put my gun away. Like so, I thought he played that brilliantly.
Did you notice what was on the corkboard behind him in that office scene? It was a good red herring.
What was it?
He had a corkboard in his detective's office with all of the investigative, pictures and pictures of crime scenes. But there's one piece of paper, one big piece of paper in the middle, a big, white piece of paper that says "I am the killer" on it.
Oh no, I missed that.
That's all there is. Yeah, but it's a red herring. And one thing that I noticed also about that scene is that this always pisses me off. This is what pisses me off about people on YouTube that review books, is that the books clearly have not been opened. They were clearly props, and they're clearly brand new books sitting there, like as if, I'm going to read these, right?
Yeah.
But Patrick Dempsey, he's like, hey, I'm McDreamy. My hairline starts here. All right. It's like, I'm wearing a wig. So what? The guy I thought was really good was his partner. I thought his partner was very good because there's a scene where they say, well, are we stopping production here? Is somebody under arrest? And the guy goes, the movie's called Stab. The actor was stabbed. It's very funny.
Yeah, that guy, he was that great kind of that character was kind of like if you go back and watch the old, like the first few seasons of Law and Order, how those detectives were, these kind of slightly sarcastic, kind of grizzled, don't care about anything. He was kind of like a throwback to those sort of like early 90s Law and Order character. I can't think of that actor's name, but he played that role so well.
They had the dad from Dirty Dancing. He was the guy, remember? What's that guy's name? The old guy, the main old guy, detective, is the dad from Dirty Dancing. And then later on, they got Jeremy Sisto or whatever. But the guy in between, the black detective, and then he partnered up with him, and then he partnered up with Dennis Farina, was Jesse L. Martin, who's got a new show coming out. And I know him. He's the guy that I know.
Jesse L. Martin?
Yeah.
Yeah,
really?
I
ate Thanksgiving at his house in New York.
Nice.
Yeah, with the Law and Order cast.
Oh, that's awesome. Was he cool?
Yeah. It was so cool. He's the guy that, remember, they were filming Rent in Tompkins Square Park, and I got up one morning and because I lived in Alphabet City there, and I turned the corner, and there's the Life Cafe is right on the corner, and it's right across from Tompkins Square Park, and Charlie Parker's house is right there. And a Life Cafe is where I've never seen Rent, but Rent is where it's set at the Life Cafe. And I looked, and they were filming a movie, and it was Jesse Martin, and he was singing 865,800 minutes. He was singing whatever that song is. And then when they stopped the scene, I said, yo, and he goes, hey, yo, man, come on. So he invited me onto the set, and we hung out. And then this is after I already knew him. And then he had a break, and his trailer was right outside my apartment on East 11th Street. So we went up to my, I said, let's just hang out at my apartment. So we went up to my apartment, and we took shots of Bushmills. And he was like, I got to go back to my trailer to get ready before I got to do the scene. He was drunk. But he was cool. He gave me the name of a director and an agent in Hollywood, but I didn't follow up because I never liked that. I didn't like, that's one thing I didn't like about acting was selling yourself and having to call people like that.
Yeah.
I know that's what you do, but I just never liked doing that. But anyway, I met him through, he was in a TV version of A Christmas Carol that had Kelsey Grammer and Jason Alexander and Jennifer Love Hewitt. Remember, I think I told you the story. Jennifer Love Hewitt briefly went out with my friend Stephen Miller, who played young Scrooge in that movie. We were friends from drama school. So when he came over to go to the premiere at the Plaza Hotel, he stayed at my apartment and we went to the premiere. And that's when I walked into the party at the premiere, and Jason and Kelsey Grammer were standing there, and I was like, "Can I meet him?" And he was like, "Yeah." So I walked up to him, and before I could say anything, Kelsey Grammer said, "So this is the notorious Dangerfield." And I said, "Yeah, hell yeah." And I asked him if he wanted to go out that night. You know, we were all going to go to Crowbar afterwards. And he said, "Have you seen my life? Look at my wife." He was married to that Playboy bunny at the time. But he said, look at my wife. If I go out with you guys, I won't have any of this anymore. It'll all be gone. Because Kelsey Grammer has like a notorious history of, you know, of partying hard. So he had gotten his life together so he could, you know. But anyway, so Jesse Martin was in that. That's how I knew him. And then we ate Thanksgiving at his apartment. So
did you get to meet Idina Menzel?
No. I met the big guy who's in the show, and he's the one who was in that show, Devs. And I met the woman, Priyanka Chopra or whatever. I met, not her. That's an Indian woman. That other woman, she's in it. The whole cast at the time was there. And it was cool because his apartment was in Tribeca and it overlooked the big hole where the Big Nine took place. It was next to it. Yeah. So
Tribeca, is that in Manhattan?
Yeah, Tribeca's at the southern end of Manhattan, not like South Street Seaport, but it's the triangle below Canal.
Oh, that's okay.
So it's
I was
like
thinking
south
it was in
of
Brooklyn
House.
For some reason.
No.
Okay.
Yeah, it became a very Tony neighborhood. And they had Robert De Niro does the Tribeca Film Festival there.
Oh, that's his festival?
Yeah, well, he had a lot to do with starting it.
Okay.
And I lived further north in the East Village.
Nice.
New York's amazing. I mean, it was amazing. I wouldn't live there now. I lived there 2004 to 2005. I moved there with my friends, and one got an advertising job. He still lives there. He's a big time advertising. One got a job on Wall Street, and he ended up leaving and then going to Darden School of Business at UVA, and then going to Atlanta, working for Coca-Cola, and then now he owns a company here. And then one of my other friends that lived with us, he worked in the music industry there, and I was working 3 jobs. I had a job. I was in a play. I had rehearsals at night, and then I would go to my bar back job, and then in the day after I woke up at like noon or 1, I would go to a job selling tickets for theater in Times Square, like in an office. I did that very briefly. I had all kinds of jobs there, all kinds of odd jobs. But I would get home when my friend that worked for Wall Street was leaving in the morning. So it was the vampire existence. Then I left there after a year and got a job in Malaysia. But anyway, that was fun. And Nev Campbell, I've met Nev Campbell because I met her because she was going out with a guy who was in that show Turn on AMC that they were filming, and Turn was filmed in Richmond, and that's where my friend Sam Rukin, who played the bad guy in Turn, we talked about him before. I met her briefly, and I met her kind of a different time when she was filming that movie. I never really loved you, or forget what it was called, that James Toback movie that my friend asked me to go to the premiere with in New York. That's the one that kind of killed Nev Campbell's career for a little while because she was naked in it. And anyway, yeah, but this is a good film. It's got a lot of people in it. Patrick Warburton is in this, who is David Putty / Joe Swanson from Family Guy. He's great. Listen, Dewdrop. Here's what we're gonna do, Dewdrop.
He was great in that. I mean, it was I don't know, and I mean Emily Mortimer I thought played the role. She had a relatively small role.
To the 8 ball. Talk to the 8 ball. All signs point to yes.
I thought these were. I mean, I think the casting was really good in all of them, in all 4 of the ones I've seen. I think the casting was great, and I mean, I mentioned this in the description. We're going to kind of get into the movie and then some of the themes with the series and the franchise as well, but mainly focusing on the first three, because I think the fourth one, I enjoy the fourth one a lot, but the fourth one was a lot more of a kind of horror movie and more of a kind of, because the first three they're very funny, like especially 2 and 3. They're very funny. They're very kind of self-referential. They're sort of meta. There's kind of like, jokes about filmmaking. They kind of, and the film sort of make fun, like especially the second one, it kind of makes fun of itself, because I think it was Timothy Oliphant's character says something about like, oh, the sequels are never as good as the original.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I think and I see it as sort of a subversion of the horror genre.
It is,
in a sense.
It is. Yeah. They took the horror genre, they subverted it, and they made it something new. They really revitalized it.
Mm-hmm.
The writing is so good. I mean, it really is good in this one, even for the third film. Third movies or movies and trilogies are kind of like bands' albums, right? The first album, if they hit it big, is a premiere, and it's something new. Then the second album is they try to go in a new direction, but also have bits of the old one, but it doesn't really work. And sophomore albums usually kind of fail a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
And then the third is kind of a return to the roots of the first album. And that is essentially what the third part of the trilogy does. And Jamie Kennedy talks about that in the movie. And it's so good because the first movie makes such a point of that you understand. It's this meta thing where you understand you're watching a horror movie. And so here are the rules for the horror movie.
Mm-hmm.
And yet they still play into the rules.
Yes.
But it's with a self-awareness. And that's why I think it's so good and so clever.
Yeah, I think that's an excellent point. So yeah, I guess we can get into the basic plot of this one. If you've seen the first two, I would thought about doing a recap on them, but whatever. People can go watch those, read about it, whatever. So the third one is, Sidney Prescott, played by Neve Campbell. And I guess I'll just say in the first one, her mother gets murdered, and it was done by the characters played by it was Matthew Lillard and Skeet
Ulrich.
Skeet Ulrich, and so. Yeah. And then in the second one, she goes to college, and I think that's what Jamie Kennedy's character gets killed, because he's in the first one. He's like the, like nerding out about movies, works at the video store, is like always filming. And then I think he gets killed in the second one. I think, if I remember correctly, Timothy Oliphant's character was the killer in the second one. And then
I don't remember the second one.
I'm pretty sure he was. And then in the third one, Sydney is, because she's been stalked by the same killer. It's, this killer has the voice changer, the black hood, black robe, the long white face with the open mouth, and the famous hunting knife.
Hello, Sydney. Hello, Sydney. Would you like to watch a scary movie?
And so there she disappears, right? She goes off and up into the wood. I think they mentioned the city. I can't remember where it is, but it's somewhere off in rural Southern California. So she's living out there with her golden retriever, has a house, and works as a like a crisis counselor over the phone. So like people can call in, and if they're women who are being beaten or whatever, assaulted, whatever, they can call in, and she'll kind of talk with them and listen. And so she lives a very isolated sort of existence. Seemingly in response to the fact that she's been stalked and her mother was murdered, and all these people, her friends and stuff around her, were getting killed as well by this, crazed killer. And so the film it started. So Liev Schreiber, and I can't. It's been probably a year since I've watched these, except for the third one when I just rewatched. But Liev Schreiber plays this character. He was kind of a shady character. I can't remember the specifics, but he becomes a talk show host.
Yeah. And
so the film opens. The film actually opens with it's a helicopter shot of these helicopters like shining spotlights, seemingly police helicopters. It's implied they're looking for somebody, and they're out over the Hollywood sign. So it opens with this sort of partially lit up Hollywood sign.
Yeah.
Which I think kind of sets the tone.
Cotton Weary. His name is Cotton Weary.
Yeah. There's a lot of names in some of these names, and I know you're better with this stuff than I am. I mean, some of the names, like the producer being named John Milton, and I don't think that's unintentional. And then
that was purposeful. Yeah.
The director of Stab 3 being named, I mean, his first name is Roman, which I think is an obvious nod to Roman Polanski. His last name's Bridger. I don't know if there's any significance to that, but
well, it was also it's a bridge from the first to the third movie, and also he's Roman. He's roaming around. He's roaming around with a knife.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
That's what I thought. It was more of a verb. And Lance Henriksen essentially plays Wes Craven. They do look similar. Lance Henriksen's great. Great.
Oh yeah.
I love the scene where he's like, yes, I facilitated a lot of Hollywood parties where women like yourselves went to go meet people. You got to play the game. Right. And you're like, oh, so your house is an Eyes Wide Shut facility.
Yeah.
Because that's what it is. It's funny how the movie ends up as an Operation Midnight Climax, Jeff Stein McCaffrey, horror house with dark tunnels and two-way mirrors.
And that's one of the things and we'll get into this later so people will kind of get what we're talking about. But when you mentioned all like the horror memorabilia and old props and costumes and stuff in the basement, obviously it's kind of campy in a sense, but I think that's also, to me, that shows that it's like you have this sort of, lavish kind of house, right? All the seedy, shady, bad kind of stuff happens out of sight, where there's a private screening room, and then there's the basement, and it's sort of it's a very like picturesque kind of house. It looks like something out of Architectural Digest or something. But then it's like you go in the basement and it's just like horror everywhere. And so again, it's almost kind of,
to me,
I don't want to say silly, but
to me it looked like a McMansion. It looked like a set. And I think it may have been filmed in an actual house, but it looked like a set to me. Everything is it's kind of like it's not quite as gaudy as like when you go to Graceland, and, everything there is obviously gaudy, and because Elvis grew up with no money. So now everything that he thinks is classy, right, is actually gaudy. And so it's the same with this Hollywood house. A lot of times you get you get exceptions to that, but this one looked like a kind of weird prop house as a house, McMansion. And also, of course, all the props and the murder takes all that, the memorabilia for the murder is in the basement, because it's Sydney's psyche, right? It's her it's the basement. She has to return down to the basement to go back in the story to where she grew up, right? And it's also, like you were saying, it's the terror tunnels are down there, and it's the kind of the screening room for the Eyes Wide Shut stuff is down there within the wall, within vaulted walls. Like there's one wall that she goes in that is like a bank vault. One of the doors. So I thought that was interesting. Have you ever been in a real house that has secret rooms or secret doors?
Not that I know. If I've ever been in one, I didn't know about it.
The only one, there's two. There's one, my cousins have one where you can go into a closet upstairs, and you can go through the walls down. There was an old staircase downstairs. So it's like an old servant's staircase.
Yeah.
And then I know somebody else in their library. They live in an old plantation house, and they have a library with a secret door. It looks like books, but it's not. But that just goes into the dining room.
Okay.
So that's pretty cool. But I've always loved that. I've always wanted to. My cousin had a secret room in his room when we were growing up. It was like you moved like a bookcase, and there was a secret nook back there, like with a bean bag and stuff.
Oh, that's
that was
cool.
Always really cool. And then I had a fort when I was little, and that had a trap door in it. And we had a birthday party, and this kid I knew fell through the trap door and bonked his head when we were 4 years old. And my parents were like, "Oh, here we go." Right? You couldn't climb the rope ladder.
Right.
But anyway, so secret doors and the secret doors through the house are supposed to be like the secret passageways, the secret entries into Sydney's life from characters. So that's how he's able to make his way through her psyche back into the normal world and escape into the walls, right?
Yeah.
That's why she dislocates herself and she lives outside of town, because they make a reference point over and over of the fact that she's lived in Brookboro or wherever whatever the name. Yeah, Woodboro. Yeah, she's always lived in this place, but then they return to it by building the exact replica of the place, right? And then so she can't escape,
right?
Essentially.
Yeah, no, that's a really good. I think that's a really interesting point. Yeah, I was kind of thinking of it in a sense of like this kind of dark underbelly beneath something that looks nice on the surface. But I do agree. I think that's a good point about the psyche, because you do see these characters kind of coming in and out, and people like pop up in the house, and I think that's a good point. And I think it's interesting that unless there's something I'm forgetting from the second one. Like I think I don't know if it's ever specifically said, but I think I always understood Woodsboro, the town that the first one takes place in, and kind of and the fourth one that's always referenced is that it was in Pennsylvania, and so there's never really any good reason for why
to go to
being
Pennsylvania.
Moved.
Damn! Shouts out to PA out there. I love you, Kutsky here. He's got it out for you, but I love you if you're from Pennsylvania.
Yeah, I don't like Pennsylvania. I don't like anybody from Pennsylvania. I'm just kidding. That's not true. But there's no good reason for her to go to California. Like, and I also, I mean, maybe crisis counselors get paid a lot of money, but it's like that's a nice house in an area where I'm sure it's not cheap. And it's like if you're buying that on that kind of, I mean, this is 2000, maybe. Anyway, that's unrelated. But
yeah, this is 90s California movie world. Anybody can afford anything in California in the 90s in movies.
Yeah, you could be you could be a bagger at a grocery store 20 hours a week and like buy a house in California.
Especially if you're a beautiful woman, right?
Oh yeah,
like Nev Campbell, she can have anything she wants, I suppose.
Yeah, and Jason makes an interesting point where he says, "Yeah, what's down there? Zombies and aliens." Talking about the basement, he says, "Think of IRL psyops currently." So yeah, that's a really good point because they've tried to make the zombie psyop happen. With the as one of my a guy I used to be good friends with called it the was it the open face sandwich in Miami? He had some joke about that.
You talking about the bath salts?
Yeah, with the
guy who was eating the guy's face on the highway in Miami. I saw that. I remember when that news happened, and I was like, "Yes, tell me more. Crazy. This is what I'm here for, dude. I love stories like this." I mean, not that I want that to happen. But
no, yeah, of course not.
That was obviously the beginning of some sort of psyop, if not the convergence of reality and then co-opted by the news. But Richmond is, by the way, for some reason is like the home of zombies. There are so many. Yeah, they have a zombie walk here, and there are so many. It ties in with like the VCU School of the Arts and with Guar's from here. It has something to do with that. But like they do a zombie walk every year where like 1 million zombies show up in downtown and they walk, and it precedes Walking Dead. But it's very weird that that's here.
Yeah, that is
I don't take part in that sort of thing. I just stand there and I go, "Sci-fi is for nerds."
There you go. That's how it's. Let them know. So
yeah, let them know.
Cotton Weary, played by Liev Schreiber, he's driving in his SUV. It's I don't know if it's a Range Rover or whatever it is. He's driving.
No, it was a Suburban.
Oh, it was a Suburban. Okay, yeah. Which, I mean, that's just like you're one guy, and you have no kids, you're not married, and you're driving Suburban in LA. Like it makes no sense.
Well, it's funny because I noticed that too when I was watching. It's like either a Suburban or the GMC version, but it's like, I suppose it would be at the time, like, this is a power vehicle, kind of like Schwarzenegger made the Hummer popular. He was the guy who first drove a Hummer through the streets of LA, screw your freedoms, right? Running over people. Yeah, Rumsfeld, right? Running over people but he's driving a Suburban. And I don't know if there's much to make of that, but I did think it was funny that he has it's like ring, ring. It's like the ring for cell phones back then. And he's like, hold on. He's like, hold on. He's like, he's got one of these phones. He's like, hold on, I got another call. Right. And then he pulls like this is after, but like he pulls his Motorola Razor, right? From the thing. Hold on. Oh, sexy voice. Hold on. I got another call. Right. But the first phone is attached by cord into the phone. It's very 2000s.
Oh yeah.
And God, what a time to be alive, man. I mean, seriously, like there's a whole thing about technology in the movie because it's like, do you have him in your memory? And he's like, my memory? I can't remember it. And Courtney Cox is like, your phone memory.
Oh yeah, I did notice that. Yeah.
Yeah, and also like star 69, hit send twice, right? Oh, this is the height of that. What a time! What a time to be alive. It was so good. Things were so good back then. But yeah, Cotton Weary. Why do they call him Cotton Weary? Cotton because he's dressed in white linen like he's Miami Vice. So he looks like he's the good guy, but he's angry in traffic and he's the big time producer. He reminded me of Wayne Gale's character in Natural Born Killers, Robert Downey Jr. That's his best role.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, Wayne Gale, Highway 666. You remember that?
Mm-hmm.
And Wayne Gale is the kind of Geraldo guy. Isn't it true that you and Manson, and he's Australian, but he's like that in the car. And you said that it focuses in on the Hollywood sign, so we're already movie within the movie.
Mm-hmm.
And is it also like, oh, Cotton weary? We're weary of the white guy, weary of the guy in the white linen suit, showing up.
Yeah.
I don't know.
And he is sort of a kind of Geraldo type of character, because there's a few notes I wanted to get to, but one thing, just to get to that, is when he walks into his house, his own show is playing on the TV at his own home, and he's doing a segment of this new phenomenon of extreme road rage incidents that are continuing theme, which I think this is a continuing theme, and this gets back to another note of LA being this crime-ridden dump. It's just total hellhole, and which gets back because, so you mentioned like, oh, sexy lady calls him this person. He's very taken in by this woman,
by her voice,
her flattering talk, like talking about how she's a fan and all that.
Wait, are you that guy from TV? Wow, you're sexy. She plays to his ego.
Right? Yes, and he buys right into it. He doesn't. He's like driving home to see his girlfriend, and he just like doesn't. He's just like, oh, this is interesting. And so then the voice switches over to Ghostface.
Why do you think I have a girlfriend? I don't have a girlfriend. Hold on, honey. I'll be right back. I don't have a girlfriend.
And so Ghostface is, like threatens his girlfriend, and so he calls 911. He's driving like a maniac, cutting people off, all over the road. Yeah. And then so he's like looking like the road rage person because people are blowing the horn, yelling at him. Yeah. And he calls 911, and he gets put into a call queue, and the automated voice is like, "Your call will be answered in the order that it came in." Right. And so it's just showing that this place is such a hellhole dump that. Which, no offense to any of our LA homies out there. Y'all are cool, but your city's a mess, and I think it has been for a long time. And so this idea that, you've got somebody who's about to kill somebody and you can't get through. And then
that happens in real life. You remember I told you I came up upon that motorcycle accident and the guy was there and I told him to call 911 and he called 911 and he goes, "Motherfucker, put me on hold." And they put him on, they were, "Hold, please." They put him on hold. You remember that? And then when the cop shows up, she goes, "All right, what's happening here?" And I was like, "There's a guy and he's dying right there. I got his blood all over me." Right. Mm-hmm. We came across him and this guy had fallen like in the rain, right, on his motorcycle, and he was choking on his blood. So I had to scoop the blood out of his mouth. And I go, "There's a guy right there." And she goes, "Sir, please calm down. Is anyone injured?" I'm like, "Yes, the guy's got his head cracked open on the fucking road. Just hold on a second, right? EMS will be here." I'm like, "You're the person."
Yeah.
You're the person. So,
it's funny. I interviewed a cop several years ago for this thing I was doing about, the fentanyl overdoses. And this kind of tied in with that opioid stream I did a while back. And he was saying like, "Oh, like cops are, we're like the ones who use this the most because, cops are out and about. Like they're not, they have a station that they work out of or precinct." But he was saying that, a lot of cases, a lot of the Narcan is administered by the police because and I'm not trying to bash the guy. Like he was cool to me, but it's like they kind of pride themselves on being the first ones there because the ambulances and the fire department, they're coming from a place, they're there until they get a call and then they head out. So it's not like, oh, you get a call, come in. Oh, I'm 4 blocks away. And so, that's just kind of funny to show up and be like, "Oh, okay. I don't know what's going on. EMS is on the way." It's like, come on. Anyway, I'm not going to gripe about
there is something to be said for, I get it, like the objective professionalism of a situation. I get it.
Sure.
But at the same time, the guy is right there. Right?
Yeah.
And this was a lady cop, so I guess we're lucky she didn't pull her something else thinking it was her taser. Right?
I was about to do that hide bit. But
yes, exactly. Did you see what I put up last night? The picture of Doja Cat. It's going around.
No.
Jethro sent it to me, and people were questioning, is this real? It's a picture of Doja Cat with Sam Hyde, the Sam Hyde shooter meme on a t-shirt that she's wearing in the car.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, is that on Instagram? I'm guessing.
Yeah, I'll see if you can see it on my phone. I got
okay. I missed this one somehow.
But I put it on the screen and I told people, it's Yeah, this is real. So can you see? Hold on.
Oh,
You're not gonna be able to really see it, but there's Doja Cat and there's Sam.
That's cool.
And then Sam, you see what Sam posted on Instagram today?
No.
Hold on. Let me find the caption. He posted the t-shirt and he said, hyper shit, cash star, ass hot, spankable, big bank. Big bank. Buy this t-shirt, big bank. But that's real. She's a big time Sam fan.
I actually have that same shirt. I bought it when they did the original run of them.
Yeah.
You
remember Nick? You remember Nick and Adam talking about with the guy from the 1975? They were talking about Doja Cat and Sam, how she was in all the Reddit chats.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was like controversial. People got mad about that.
They did, because Matty Healy goes, Matty Healy goes, I think she's what you call, what's that word? Based? I think she's based. What does that mean? Yeah, because the girl they were talking about then went on in front of 100,000 people at Glastonbury and called out Matty Healy and the Adam Friedland show, which is so fucking meta world, right?
Oh yeah.
I mean, that's just crazy. I thought that was funny. And their response was like, oh well, no big
whatever.
Did you see the clip they just put up about Black Hawk Down?
No, I haven't seen it yet.
Oh man, it's so good. I love it when Nick talks about movies.
Oh yeah,
this is a tangent. This is a tangent, people. So on Adam Friedland's show, they put up a clip of the latest podcast when they're talking about Black Hawk Down, and Nick and Adam goes, "That one was for the boys. That movie was for the fellas, right?" And
he's 100% correct.
They talk about how that scene in Black Hawk Down when they're trying to throw the infrared like light up onto the top of the building, mm-hmm. and then they finally get it up there, and the Apache helicopter comes down and just like smokes like 200 people. And the audience watching going, yeah. That one was for the boys.
That's a whole new movie for sure.
Yeah, that's a good movie.
Yeah, I need to rewatch that one.
Yeah.
But yeah, so then Cotton, he gets killed. He gets stabbed, and his girlfriend is played by the woman who played Blake Lively's character's mom on Gossip Girl, which is another great show. Gilmore Girls for me, that's the one. But I'm a Gossip Girl fan too. I don't care.
For the folks at home here, let me explain something. Maddie is all about Gossip Girl.
Yes,
he is all about Lauren Graham. I like the grandmother on that. She's cool.
Yeah, she was great. She played that character very well. She has a good line.
It's like, listen, you dumb, listen, lady, just listen to your mother, who is obviously wealthy and has it all together and has a husband, has kids. She's got it all together. Why don't you ever listen to her? Right.
Right. That's what it makes. Like she just doesn't listen to her out of spite or something.
Yeah. And she's classy. The grandmother's classy. She's always wearing those pearls and stuff. Listen to your damn grandmother.
It's like whenever I just watched the episode last night where they get, we're going to get back to the movie, folks. I promise. This is a quick digression. Where the grandmother, like they get termites. Rory and Lorelai get termites at their house, and their grandmother's like, "Oh, here's a check. How much is it?" And she's like, "No, Mom, you're not paying for it." And she's like, "Okay, well, I'll just leave the amount blank, and you can fill it in later." I was like, "Dude, if I had termites at my house, and my parents were just like, here's a blank check. If I had parents that had that kind of money, where they could be like, here's a blank check, get your house fixed. They have to do the whole foundation and the joists and everything. I'd be like." Y'all are the best. Thank you.
Yes, thank you. Get that shit fixed. Stat.
Yeah.
Stop fucking around. Going to work as a barista or whatever the hell she's doing. Right. Or Melissa McCarthy's like, "Oh, I'm the chef at the barista club. There's too much going on here. Oh, one day I'll find love." So is Gilmore Girls your trash go-to?
That is not a trash go-to. That's just a go-to. Yeah,
I've got one worse. You know what my trash go-to is?
What's that?
Is Below Deck.
I think
You ever watched
I
Below
watched
Deck on
I
Bravo?
watched an episode when I was at the gym. It was like I was doing cardio or something. I was at the gym and it was on, and I just ended up watching it. I was like, I
Yeah.
don't even know what this is. This is crazy.
Listen, I'm a member of the Below Deck community. We call ourselves Yachties, and we are loyal to Captain Sandy. Okay. Below Deck Australia, Below Deck Med, Below Deck Full Sailing Yacht, Below Deck Norwegian, right?
You're all over it.
Yeah, I'm all over Below Deck, man. Captain Sandy. Always listen to Captain Sandy. No, it's total trash, but it's a go-to.
Okay.
that in the show Southern Charm, which is in
I never
Charleston,
watched that one
because I'm friends with somebody who's friends with somebody who is best friends with somebody on the show.
Okay.
That guy Shep on
yeah, I think he lives like down in, is it Hilton Head or something?
Yeah.
Yeah. So we'll do a TV stream later.
Okay, sorry.
Y'all are gonna get we should just like a 5-hour stream of just talking about shows. Dude, let's do it. That's for real. So yeah, then Ghostface kills Cotton and his girlfriend because he wants to know where Sydney is. He's like, "Where's Sydney?" Cotton's like, I think he tells him, "I don't know," and so he kills him. He's like, "I'm just gonna stab this guy because he won't tell me where Sydney
I'm at your girlfriend's house. She's in the shower right now." Right? Remember he says that?
Yeah.
So he rushes home, and his girlfriend is in the shower. By the way, she gets out of the shower, and her hair is completely dry, which is weird.
Yeah, I didn't understand that. I'm not sure what was going on there.
Yes.
But what's interesting is there's a lot more. There's one of the things that Ghostface does, and I find Ghostface, because Ghostface is played by different people. It's different people. I mean, I think it's always played by the same person, or at least the voice is the same person. But
the voice is done by this guy Roger Jackson. He's
Roger Jack. That's
from
it.
Atlanta. Mm-hmm.
But it's each in every film, Ghostface is somebody or some different people. I think in the first one it was Skeet and Skeet Ulrich and Matthew Lillard's characters. And the second one, I think it was Timothy Olyphant. And the third one, we'll get to that. And the fourth one, it was Emma Roberts. And so one of the things, there's a level, and I think if I remember correctly, it came out more in this one. There's like a level of sort of like psychological terror that Ghostface, because he sort of plays games with the victims, because Cotton, it's sort of subtle, but his girlfriend, explains how, he's because she thinks it's him. He's like playing a joke because he's like obsessed with, Ghostface and the, Sydney and all this stuff. And so she thinks he's playing. So then he finally gets in the room and she like comes at him because she's like, oh, because it was actually Ghostface, but she's like, oh, it's you. Like you've taken this too far. And so he's kind of excuse me, Ghostface sort of creating this situation where the two of them are like now coming at each other. And so he's creating confusion and chaos and discord. And then he just comes in and, slaughters both of them.
Yeah. They should have called him Soy Face.
Because he does. Yeah, he does have,
because he has soy face.
Mega soy face.
He is mega soy face. He's MSF.
I mean, the mouth is like that long. So
it is. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so the mouth being long, the mask that he wears is obviously, he's wearing a literal mask, but it's supposed to be it's also the figurative mask of the killers in the first one, right? Mm-hmm. So they're tired of wearing masks where they have to be normal in life. So then they put on a real mask so they can hide their mask face.
Yes.
And the way that the mouth looks is supposed to be a permanent scream. Mm-hmm. Right. And that's you're supposed to see, the victim is supposed to see their fate at the hands of, not fate, but it's supposed to see their end in the face of the killer, right, in the yawning gulf of the mouth. So that's why in my book I'm writing, the killer wears a mask of his own face because he continuously removes his mask, and his mask is just more of his face, and he has mirror shards for eyes, so the victim sees themselves in the broken mirror before they go, right, in the fractured mirror they've created in the killer. But I think that Scream must have come out of Faces of Death, the sort of cult VHS series. And the way Cotton Weary talks is kind of like the narrator in some of those, accidents on the German Autobahn.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
There's one where a parachutist falls into an alligator pit, and who knows if those are even real. But he is a narrator for death and destruction on the U.S. highways, certainly. And it's funny how road rage is a kind of a 90s phenomenon. I mean, it was a thing obviously before that, but it became a thing with a name in the 90s. And that is accelerated, in extremis. Now, you remember the video, I mean, during 2020 of the swarms of people on the highway overtaking the tractor trailers. And that's when AJ did the video. You're assaulting me, asshole! You fucking piece of shit. You remember that?
Yeah. That was so good.
But I mean, it's amazing the road. I mean, even here, because 95 goes right through Richmond, but and 95 goes Miami all the way up to Maine, and so it's the main through line through the East Coast, and the number of road rage incidents here, just inside the city limits and out right outside, is amazing every weekend. It's like, 17 people shot in road rage incidents at 3 a.m. Outside the city or on the highways. So he's capitalizing on that, and that's what Wayne Gale is talking about in Natural Born Killers. Which, by the way, did I mention this? We're doing Jim Bob and I are doing Natural Born Killers next Saturday. That's your favorite movie. Natural Born Killers.
I love that movie.
Cootier has never seen Natural Born Killers, you guys.
I saw it once and I did not enjoy it.
Okay. Well, we're doing that next.
But I'm going to tune in for that. Yeah, go check out Made by Jim Bob. That dude, I think we already talked about this. Just again, Donnie Darko analysis, brilliant.
Yeah, thank you.
So then we cut to Gail Weathers, which I think is an interesting. A lot of these names are interesting. Who's played by Courtney Cox, and she's addressing a group of journalism students, right? And she's telling them that breaking the rules, doing what others won't, stopping at nothing, and being willing to have the world hate you is the only way to get the story, the facts, and then she takes a beat, and the fame, right? Yeah. So for both Cotton, like Cotton is not a journalist, right? He just is I don't know what you'd call, he's not a propagandist. What's the word I'm looking for?
He's a kind of video shock jock.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, he's a video shock jock. He's just like he's kind of like that's probably the best way to put it. But for Gail Weathers is,
they refer to him as Geraldo.
Yes, that's right. I think they do. I think directly refer to him as Geraldo. And so
Gail Weathers is what my friend Kim out there, shouts out to Kim, brought up nominative determinism, right? Because she's kind of a weather girl. She's not a literal weather girl, but she is she's a journalist who kind of seems like she leveled up from being a weather girl. But a weather girl whose name is Gail Weathers, that's nominative determinism. And Gale, a gale force wind, a wind, weather, and she's weathering this. But now she's talking about the figurative weather, like the storm of killings that's overtaking the city.
Yeah, that's an excellent point. And so I think for her, like journalism, I think she seemed, I mean, she's, this very kind of, boss, what character. And
boss
kind of like, girl power, sort of, strong, independent woman type of thing. Yeah. But I think for her, I mean, she does seem to have kind of an interest in journalism, but she's not really a true journalist. She's just sort of she does like hidden camera kind of stuff. But I mean, I think in that quote is that journalism is a vehicle to try to achieve fame and money. And I think that's a case for a lot of people, and people don't realize that. They're like, because when I went back to school, I was like, I wanted to, this is cringe, but it was like, I wanted to be a political journalist. That was my thing. I was like, I want to go work for, like the Guardian or, Washington Post or something. And I very quick, this was 2016. And so very quickly, I was like, you know what? I do not want to do that.
What a time to be a journalist.
Yeah. Because that was when I really got like down on journalism, kind of got disillusioned. And other people were like, this is like the best time to be a journalist. I was like, nah, man. But with that is, because a lot of those people, you do make a name for yourself. You do get notoriety. And what also people don't realize is that unless you're at the top of your game, and you have like, and that's mostly people who've been doing this for decades, like Cy Hirsch or somebody. Most people in journalism, even in New York City, and a lot of these jobs, you have to live in DC, you have to live in New York, have to live in LA, one of these major cities, and you're making like $60 grand a year, which in New York City, Miami, LA, DC, you might as well be making 10 grand a year. It's sometimes less. I've seen some of these jobs pay like 45,000 a year in New York City and
sounds like
DC.
a teacher, except they
Yeah.
pay teachers well in New York, but yeah. So you thought you wanted to be like Woodward and Bernstein, right?
Yes, that was my thing. I was like, I want to go, like, I wanted to be like an investigative type of political sort of journalist. And then, I quickly, I mean, anyway, I'm not anti-journalism. I think there's a purpose to it, and I agree with it as a concept, but it's not what it's supposed to be.
There's a guy here. There's a guy here who works for the local news. John, forget his last name. John, forget. But if there's a Murther or a drive-by, he is fucking on it. He is already there. He's the Tri-Cities, everywhere in the Tri-Cities or anywhere in Central VA. He's already fucking there, dude. So, there's that kind of thing. He probably doesn't get paid much, but he is there, dude. He's this big dude. Well, we're standing outside of a drive-by that happened 3 seconds ago. This car just went by and ran over a postal worker, right? He is on it.
Did this dude watch Nightcrawler and be like, dude, he's literally me?
Yeah, he's lit. Yeah, yes. Yeah. He's more like Bill Paxton in Nightcrawler, but he's not. He doesn't come off as skeezy like that. He comes off as, I forget his name, John. I forget his name, but that's a common name. But he is fucking there, dude. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But other than that, right? What are you going to be? You're going to be a white hat journalist, right?
Yeah.
So yeah.
And then there's a question Gail gets, which I had paused it for a second to make this note. And because on Amazon, it'll give you like the names of people on the side of who's in the scene. And I think it was one of the Arquettes, because the last name was Arquette, because David Arquette is in this.
Yeah.
He's in all 4 of them. And so Gail gets a question from this person, stands up at the very end. And
she gets a question from Luke Radowski in the audience.
Yeah.
Right.
It was actually Luke Radowski going under a fake name.
Yeah.
He was fresh off.
Why do you treat the president like a baby? Right. Yeah. Is it the Arquette that became a Skittles?
No,
it might be.
There was maybe, because I don't remember when that whole transition happened.
Yeah.
So it might have been, was it Alexis? I don't remember what Alexis's name before. It actually might have been. I'd have to look it up.
But the question he asked is good.
Yeah, I mean, he says like, is cutting other people's, like, asks about cutting other people's throats to get where she is, and she says yes, you should, metaphorically, and it basically tells the aspiring journalist that you should absolutely cut people's throats, step on people, do literally absolutely anything you have to do to get the story, which is what gets you, the fame and the money. And then Cotton himself actually had a cameo in Stab 3, which is the movie, because in the movie they're making films about the murders in Woodsboro, when Sydney's mother originally got killed, and it's called Stab. So it's like the movie within the movie. And this one, they're actually on the set, but Cotton had a cameo in Stab 3. And so I think that's another point where it just shows, and again, he's not a journalist, but in that sort of media journalist, kind of journalism adjacent, it's just a vehicle for fame and notoriety. Now he's a part of the story of, the Stab story. Again, this gets kind of meta. I think people can follow this, though. I trust my audience's high IQ enough to follow these kind of things within things. But so again, it's just like, oh, I'm going to do this. Oh, and now I'm going to have a cameo in a big, Hollywood film. And so then I've got like 2 sets of notes here. I got to see if I'm missing anything. Oh, one thing I wanted to, and you may know something about this, you may not, that Sydney right by her front door, there's a poster on her wall for a production of The Fall of Troy that was put on by Windsor College, I think in the second movie, like right by the door to her house. Do you have any idea if there's like all this history, literature stuff? If you don't, that's totally fine. I just didn't know if there was some significance to this, because I think with Wes Craven, there doesn't, in the Scream movies at least, there doesn't seem to be anything it's almost like a Kubrick. Like there's nothing unintentional. Everything that is there, there's a reason and a purpose that it's there.
Yeah, everything's a symbolic artifact
Yeah.
of the Scream world. Is this the face that launched 1,000 ships? Marlowe says in his Helen of Troy play. So there's a production of Helen. I didn't notice the poster, but I suppose that Sydney, in a way, would be Helen of Troy. So in the Iliad, right, which is named after the city of Ilium, right, Troy. So in the Iliad, Agamemnon, and what's his face, go to Sparta, or no, I'm sorry, they go to Troy, and then Helen is the daughter of Priam or Priam, and she is married off to. No, she's not the daughter. She. Okay, so Helen of Troy is married off to Agamemnon's buddy, and then while they're there, she is stolen by Paris. Yeah, because Paris is the brother of Hector, and Hector is the son of Priam. So then when they get back, they realize that she's gone, and then that's why they launch the war from Sparta on Troy, right? The Greeks unite, and then they get Achilles. So in other words, Helen is this beautiful woman who is stolen off. But in this, there's not much of a connection I can't think of, except for the fact that kind of her dreams and her life are stolen and ripped away by the villain, right? Who would be the psychic villain, the Scream character. And she's sort of held hostage by her past in a sense. But other than that, I don't know if there's much of a connection. I mean, I can't think of one right now.
Yeah, no, I think that's a good. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
To say she's beautiful.
Yeah,
she's a beautiful woman. Helen is supposed to be the most beautiful woman of all time.
Yeah, I think that. Yeah, I appreciate it. I'm glad you. Yeah, I was hoping. Like I said, I wasn't sure if there was something there, and I think that's. And I wasn't sure if it's just a callback like to the second movie, but I do think there could potentially be something there. So it's a very good point.
It also precedes the Sword and Sandals epics of the 2000s. Troy, the movie with Brad Pitt, was like 2006, 2005 or 6. Gladiator was the start of that, and Gladiator came out in 2000, so around the same time. That's why they started. Gladiator was a sleeper hit, if you guys don't remember. It was not supposed to be big, and then it became this big thing. Are you not entertained? Are you not entertained? Is that not why you are here? Right. Great movie. But that movie was made as a result of Braveheart, and Braveheart was a sleeper hit.
Yeah.
Braveheart went on to win Best Picture and Best Director for Mel Gibson. But I suppose it's classic Hollywood, right? Helen of Troy's classic Hollywood story that they would remake, and that she's supposed to be beautiful.
One other note I had on
if you have an answer for that, if you have an interpretation of that, put it in the chat or put it in the comments afterwards, please.
Yes, definitely. If anybody has any insight on that, it is something I did find very interesting. Speaking of Gale Weather, actually, one thing I did want to mention, just two quick things I wanted to mention before we move on, is the Scream mask. It almost kind of looks like a caricature of that famous painting, The Scream. I think it was Munch was the guy's name.
Yes, Edvard Munch. Hey, good call. That must be what it is.
I think because it's the same kind of face shape and it's sort of but it's exaggerated from what the painting already is.
Because the painting is called The Scream. So good call. I totally forgot about that. Totally. But see, this is why we were here. Is this not why you were here? This is why we're here, from Maddie's interpretation. Totally forgot about the Edvard Munch. Good call, dude.
Thanks. Another thing, Gale Weathers is an anchor for Total Entertainment, which I thought was, that's sort of, I think it was the two, because this is when, I don't remember when Fox News launched. Do you remember what year Fox News launched?
No, but Fox News Fox as a television channel launched in the 80s because they launched as a lowbrow, they launched with Cops. and then Married with Children was like one of their first big shows. I remember watching the first episode of Married with Children. So that was in the 80s. And then later on, then they developed the Fox News channel. So it was in the 90s, into the 2000s.
Okay.
But it had to make its way into the big four, because Fox also as a channel was like here you had channels 6, 8, 12, and 35. And back in the 80s and 90s, folks, when you actually had to like dial the television on a dial, if anybody was around back then. But CBS, ABC, NBC, and then Fox. The video, it reminds me of Video Entertainment News, which is I think that's the name of the thing in Nightcrawler. Go back and watch my Nightcrawler analysis on my channel, people. Please watch my Nightcrawler analysis. And also, there was that creeper thing. Remember that guy Brock?
Brock. I almost said Lesnar, not Brock Lesnar. Brock,
the kid who was in First Kid. Who went on to be a crypto billionaire and ran for a libertarian president.
I can't think of it.
And he was partnered with that guy, Mark, whatever, that was the Uber creep, who was tied in with the director of, let's call it Mex N, about the mutants.
Oh, you're talking about Bryan Singer?
Yes, he's tied in with that guy. And then they were tied in with the guy, what's the comedian from American Pie? He was in that. They were in that Creeper movie, which is like a creeper programming movie. Sean William Scott.
Yeah, Sean William Scott.
And they had a company called like Video Entertainment something. It was almost exactly the same in this.
Yeah.
But anything with like video in it seems to be. Don't name your company that. Right.
And that's an excellent point. And that's an interesting time in television, because I think that, and the reason I mentioned Fox News specifically is because I think that's where you started to see kind of the blending of information and entertainment, because CNN historically, they're still kind of more buttoned down and straightforward, where Fox, the host kind of, you had these characters, like Glenn Beck and Bill O'Reilly and these people who have these like big personalities and, Bill O'Reilly in particular. And so that's where you started seeing, and I'm not saying their information is reliable or whatever. I'm not making a political statement here. I'm just saying that
name in town, if you wish to opine, says Bill O'Reilly. Remember that was his tagline.
Oh,
Glenn Beck came later. Glenn Beck was on there later.
Right. Yeah.
But that the purpose of that was to have an op-ed page on television,
right,
which was different from the talking heads. And Bill O'Reilly even came later. But remember, CNN got its start. The thing that broke CNN into the mainstream was The Girl in the Well, which was during the Reagan era. So The Girl in the Well, and then they really made it big with CNN had all the coverage of Operation Desert Storm.
Yes,
because I remember watching that like 1990. The night of the invasion, where Scud missiles are falling everywhere, right? Mm-hmm. That's what broke them. But that's just what I'm trying to say here is that CNN also got their start that way. They kind of claim that they don't, but they did.
Right.
But I get totally, yeah. It's a combination of creating the story and mixing reality, a kind of artistic reality that's produced with straight up news stories.
Yes.
Right. So it's not just B-roll. Now it's live and, here's what's happening.
Yeah, that's I think another bit, this is another quick note on this, is that if you've ever read the book Better Than Sex by Hunter S. Thompson, it was his book about the first Clinton campaign. But it was sort of not a sequel, but it was like maybe like a companion sort of, or continuation of like the Fear and Loathing on the Campaign Trail 72. Yeah. But instead of being out there on the campaign trail, he was watching it on CNN. So he was writing these like essays about the campaign, basically from his kitchen. He was just posted up in his chair watching this whole thing unfold on CNN. And so one other thing I want to mention, the soundtrack.
I got it down there. Yeah, I've got it. I don't have Better Than Sex down there, but I've got, because I think it came out after The Great Shark Hunt, but I've got all the Hunter S. Thompson down there. Yeah, and that's what Gonzo journalism became. It was that he did that with Fear and Loathing of the Kentucky Derby, which is a funny. So
Yes.
I've got a Hunter S. Thompson stream up if you guys want to watch that on
Mhm.
Generation of Swine and Songs of the Doomed. But that's what
Great
Gonzo
stream.
journalism was. It became, the story is the coverage of the story, right? We're here at the Mint 500, right? Kawasaki, the Sang, right?
Which that
Hired
it's
geeks.
funny.
Yeah.
It's funny because the Gonzo journalism was not intentional. Because if people have read the Kentucky Derby's Decadent and Depraved, I was trying to think of the exact title of it. That one is, it was basically, he went to cover this, met Ralph Steadman. You know, he goes back to Louisville, and he talked about it later. Is that he said that he's got this assignment to turn in, and he realizes, oh crap, like this is terrible. You know, he's just like, he said he was pulling pages out of like a whiskey stained notebook and just like faxing them in, and he's like, I'm done. Like I'm never gonna write another thing again. Like this is the end of my writing career. I'm going to go, drive a taxi. And it ended up being a hit. And that's what kicked off his career. And with the music in this film, there's not a lot of music. Some of the song, I think there's like a Static X song, like a Fuel song. So it's very of the times. But the one song that they really play, that you can hear the most, that's like played over, is Red Right Hand by Nick Cave, which I'm a Nick Cave fan. Also, Arctic Monkeys do a great cover of Red Right Hand. But it's this song, and I think the song choice, I don't know I don't know if it's Wes Craven or somebody else, but I think this song choice is very much intentional, because it's a song. If people don't know the song, it's basically a song. It's great song, look it up, but it's basically about this guy who, he's sort of like a predator. Like he preys upon people who have no there's a line which says something about, like, if you have no self-respect, you feel like an insect. He's gives you everything you want. You want money, you want security, like whatever it is. But then ultimately he's this like sinister sort of character, and sort of like the like peak of the song is, he says, you're just a microscopic cog in his catastrophic plan. And so it's this sort of shady, sinister sort of character that's kind of directing people's lives. And it's like he's pulling people in with, he's almost like a devil kind of character. It's like, here's what you want all these material earthly things. But then, and he doesn't explicitly say this, but it's implied that results in the destruction of the people that kind of go along with what he's offering.
That's a very serial killer mentality, right?
Yeah.
The microscopic cog thing, which is like to see people as bugs. Bateman talks about that in American Psycho. It's also in Bundy talked about that. Dahmer talked about that. I think BTK, who's been in the news a lot now. And to see people as insectoids, right? Mm-hmm. Or to see them as non-people. And also the Red Right Hand is the Red Honda of Ulster, right? That's a Northern Irish Protestant loyalist symbolism on the flag. It's also a Masonic thing, right? And it's also like the missing red hand is the hook hand. And it's also the bloody hand and the handprint is in Macbeth, of course. And now you've set off my OCD programming, because I have Fear and Loathing on the Campaign Trail 72. I can't fucking find it now.
Oh, that's
damn
annoying.
It. It's not. Why would it not be with all of the Hunter S. Thompson books that I have down here? Why would it not be there? So that's going to be another prose book that is missing from this box of books that I have. Damn it.
Oh, it's annoying.
But yeah, he, because he followed Jimmy Carter on the Campaign Trail in 72.
Or 76.
76.
Was McGovern and
76.
Nixon in 72?
Yeah. Right. Yes. Yeah. He did Fear and Loathing on the Campaign Trail is 72, but then he later did he was on the Campaign Trail with Carter in 76.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's all in the Great Shark Hunt Down. It's also part of, I think, Songs of the Doomed. That's the one where he's like, it's either that or Generation of Swine. I covered it on the channel, but it's like where he's waiting for the event to take place, and he goes into the bathroom and he's like doing PCP, and then he's like, gosh, I can't wait to get home and find my rocket propelled grenade Stinger missile so I can launch it later. I bought it from a guy on 53rd and 3rd, right? Oh, there is one song, by the way, this that you missed, and it's when Cotton Weary goes home, and his girlfriend, she's like, "Why do you always have to play this music? Do you remember the song that was playing when the first murder takes place? It was Creed." It was Creed, dude.
Oh, that's
the Creed song.
Yes, it was Creed.
Because I heard the first guitar riff and I went, "Fuck yeah, dude! 2000s we're playing some Creed." because the 2000s, of course, it was all the music choices for movies were reflecting the popularity of. It was like the tail end of pop punk. Remember when you had Blink 182 and American Pie? They were in the movie, and then that goes into new metal in the 2000s. So, and everyone's dressed like they're going to a Creed concert or something.
Yeah, it looks like the kind of people you'd have seen at the Creed concert in 2000.
Yeah. We haven't gotten very far in the movie. This is my fault, but that's okay.
No, we're having a good time. I think people like this kind of stuff. But there's the character who plays I can't think of the actor's name, but who plays the character Tyson. He sort of, because him and the other, because they're making Stab 3. It's on a set built to look just like Woodsboro and to look like Sydney's home in Woodsboro, and he's sort of lamenting the fact that acting is all a business now. And there's these references, and I mean, it always was. Like, you and I know Hollywood was always, it's just, well, it's a business, it's many other things as well, but like that's how it's always been. But he's sort of, he laments that he says something about like, it's not Wayne Brady, it's somebody like that. Like he's talking about how like black actors aren't taken seriously and how it's like Usher is, off Broadway, and then was it Wayne Brady? It may not be Wayne Brady. I may be thinking of the wrong, but it's another actor like that. Or, he's doing something else, and he's this guy clearly wants to be a serious actor, and here he is playing the person that gets killed second or third in Stab 3.
Right.
I wrote. It's interesting you mentioned the bloody handprint, because there's a scene where Sydney falls asleep on her couch. And she dreams that she sees her mother at her window, who's dressed in this white robe. Her mother, and this was like the thing with her mother. I don't know. That like gave me the creeps. I don't know why. But her mother comes up, tells her that everything you touch dies. You're just like me. And then she falls slow to the ground, and she like puts her hand on the window, and her hand is bloody for reasons that we don't aren't really clear. And leaves these kind of. This sort of like bloody handprint on the window, and then Ghostface pops up, breaks the window, and then Sydney wakes up. And I think that's it's not ever explicitly stated, but I think that's an implication. And I think it would be obvious that she has like PTSD from these kinds of events. So she's having these seeming, I think would be implied to be recurring nightmares about this figure coming up and coming after, which I think is like perfectly perfectly understandable.
So we see the picture of her with her mother, right? She looks just, whoever the mother is, she looks just like her. And then that's foreshadowing for her later appearing as a ghost, right? With the sheet over her. I didn't really get that either. I thought it was kind of, they were trying to add two different thematic elements into the movie, right? As like you were saying, her origins, I guess it would be her origins, her mother. There's a scene where she's talking to her dad later. And then there's the blackmail thing later that occurs in the climax that we get. But I don't know. It was also kind of you get Mommy Dearest and Carrie sort of mixed in there, I guess. Hush, Hush, Sweet Charlotte. Have you ever seen that movie?
Which one?
It's called Hush, Hush, Sweet Charlotte.
Oh, no.
You want to watch a good classic horror movie? That is a classic. It's got Bette Davis.
Okay.
It's a movie about an axe murder, an axe mutilation. And it's got Bette Davis. It's in black and white. It's called Hush, Hush, Sweet Charlotte.
I'm going to write that one down.
Yeah, it's great. It's a classic movie.
Go ahead.
No, go ahead, because I'm looking for this book.
Yeah, I was going to say that there's a scene where I think it was it Jenny McCarthy who played the blonde woman who's like this very kind of vapid, vain, shallow sort of woman who, again, like all these people want to be, they claim to want to be serious actors. And because she's on the phone, she's in Roman's office, thinks she's talking to Roman, and on the phone, and she's laments the fact, she's like, oh, she's saying she's 35 and she's playing a 21-year-old. She laments the fact, she's complaining about how she has to, die naked. She's playing a stupid character, and she wants to be taken seriously as an actress. And then she's annoyed when she started the scene, because then the person who's pretending to be Roman on the phone is like, well, let's read through the script. And so she's annoyed. She's like, oh, she starts the scene in the shower. And she's like, oh, well, the shower has been done. She's like, Vertigo, hello. Now, I haven't seen Vertigo. I tried to look up if there's a shower scene in Vertigo. I think it was implied she was mixing up Psycho and Vertigo.
Mm-hmm. I don't remember a shower scene in that, no.
Yeah, so I thought that was kind of, she's like, oh, I have to play a stupid character. And, she's like, oh. But I don't know. I haven't seen Vertigo, so I can't speak to that. But
fuck, I can't find this fucking book, dude.
Oh, that's irritating.
I'm sorry. The affiliates are not going to be happy, but I cannot believe every time I fucking look for a book, it's always prose. I can't, like this, that I can't find Oliver Stone. I had Oliver Stone's autobiography in there. I can't find this one. And whatever, man. Fuck it. I know it's gone because it would be right there with the Hunter S. Thompson books, and I can't find it. But it's included in the Great Shark Hunt, so I'm going to tell myself that that's okay.
Yeah.
Have you seen Rob Eggers' breakdown of the Psycho shower scene?
No.
It's very good. So. Very, very well done. Because of the sound editing in it as well, and the symbolism of going down the drain, and the reveal and the silhouette. It's very good. But yeah, Jenny McCarthy's in this, and Jenny McCarthy, who was I don't know what's happened to her, but she was based for a little while. She had the whole thing about stabbies and things that result from that, but who knows what that was about. But yeah, of course Jenny McCarthy is in this, of course, right, because it's 2000,
right?
And Jenny McCarthy was huge. She was so popular. What was the show on MTV that she hosted? The dating show that she hosted. It was very, very popular. Now I can't even remember.
I can't think of the name of it.
But she was big time. And yeah, so I like how she's at the office and they have the big 2000s computers, in the background. And she gets thrown through the window, right? So smashing the window. There's a lot of glass breaking in this movie. Mm-hmm. Have you ever been at a glass bottle broken over your head?
No.
I got to do that in a play I was in called Life on the Bowery when I was in 8th grade. I get to smash a breakaway glass bottle on somebody's a prop bottle or a prop glass. You barely touch it and it shatters. It's meant to shatter. I had a real glass bottle broken over my head. I think I did that. I shouldn't say that. I think I did that myself as a party trick one time. But it was not. But yeah, so she goes right through the glass and then she gets stabbed in the back. What happened to Cotton? I forget. He got killed?
Yeah, he got killed in his house. He got stabbed.
Oh, right, because he showed up. And there's a lot about, can't even talk about it here, but there's a lot with Liev Schreiber in real life. That is very, very creepy. We sort of alluded to it in the Asteroid City stream that we did because he was in that. But there's a lot with that. But
that's a tough one. I was going to say this is a tough one because I like Liev Schreiber as an actor. Like I think he's a good actor. I always enjoy his performances. But yeah, that guy, not making the act, not accusing him of doing anything illegal. I'm just saying there's some stuff that really raises the eyebrows about him.
Very strange.
Yeah, there's just a few random notes I just wanted to touch on here. Just random things I noticed, like when Gail shows up at the movie set for Stab 3, and she walking through the soundstage, she's wearing this like neon yellow pantsuit and red shirt, which is if you look behind her, there's a no smoking sign on the wall, and it is identical. It's like I think a red sign with like bright yellow lettering, and it's these same exact colors that she's wearing, which I don't think that really means anything. I just thought it was kind of interesting.
And all the girls are wearing pants in this.
Yes,
they're all wearing pants.
Yeah.
Yes.
I think there's one scene where Emily Mortimer's character wears a dress, but I think other than that, everybody wears pants.
Especially all the press photography.
Yeah.
they're all wearing pants. And Parker Posey is like she's got major Jawa energy going on, dude.
Yeah.
She's very small. I didn't realize how small she is.
I didn't either.
Yeah.
I was kind of surprising.
I also realized that Parker Posey, because we were talking about clones the other night on Boiler Room, and Parker Posey is pretty much the same person as Elizabeth Banks. Have you noticed that?
Oh,
they play this.
Yeah.
They are the same person.
I hadn't thought about that. That's a really good point, though. There's really very little, if any, difference between them.
There's also, I realized, because I've always thought, who is Channing Tatum? Who is Channing Tatum like? Have you ever noticed how Channing Tatum is the exact same person as Richard Tyson? Richard Tyson plays the cop in There's Something About Mary. Remember when he gets interrogated and there's that cop, he keeps wiping his mouth and he's like, "You sick bastard." And he slams his head on the table.
I never saw it.
You haven't seen There's Something About Mary?
No.
Oh, you got to see that, dude. But he's the same guy. He's got he is the exact same. So anyway, that's talking about clones.
I gotta look that, because I think there was like one movie I saw Channing Tatum at. Was he in? I think he was in one of the Tarantino movies. He had a really small role.
We know you went to see Magic Mike and Magic Mike Part 2 or whatever premiere day. You were there at 8:00 at night at the cinema. No.
Oh yeah, dude. I had like a whole. I invited literally everybody I know. I was like, we got to go.
All the fellas.
We're gonna camp out.
You went with all the fellas, and you were like, dudes, we're gonna get some new moves. We're gonna get some new moves here. And my pony. Do it. No, Channing Tatum is great in the movie Haywire, the Steven Soderbergh movie Haywire. That's the one that has that. What's the name of that girl boxer? She was an MMA woman.
Ronda Rousey?
The star of that movie. Yeah, no, not her. The other one.
Gina Carano?
Yes, she's the star of Haywire. It's very good.
Wow.
Yeah, and it's got Michael Fassbender. It's about CIA contractors.
Oh, cool.
And there's a crisscross. There's a double cross in it, and Channing Tatum plays one of the contractors, and he's very good in that one. Yeah. Well, I'm trying to think of other Channing Tatum movies.
I can't think of anything. But, there's an interesting. I wrote this quote. I don't remember who Tom Prince is, but he quoted. There's a note that says, "Pop culture is the politics of the 21st century." And I think that's kind of true, because politics are still, but like now we see politics being merged into entertainment, because whereas, if you look at the 20th century, politics was a bit more buttoned down, and now we see where like pop culture, like that was a thing people were all, to hear people talk about it and look at history, people were like really into that. There was like a big focus in the 20th, and now it's like pop culture has become the thing, but now it's like everything gets sort of subsumed by pop culture. It's politics, it's news, it's everything. It just kind of becomes part of this pop culture sort of machine.
That reached its apotheosis with the president as a former reality television star.
Yes, exactly.
And I think it kind of began in the 90s with Bill Clinton commenting on Pedro in Real World 3. Okay, the Real World 3 series on MTV. Mm-hmm. If you remember Pedro, he was yelling at, I was like 12 when this came out or something. And there was a scene where he's fussing at Puck, who was so cool in Real World 3. He was the dude who wrote it. He was a BMX messenger bike dude. Mm-hmm. And he goes, "You take your finger, you stick it in the peanut butter, you eat the peanut butter, and then you stick your finger back in the peanut butter." And Pedro was the first guy on television who was suffering from the CIA thing that they gave to people in another continent. He was Skittles. Yeah. And when he died, Bill Clinton, it was famous because Bill Clinton did a thing on it. And he said, we're going to honor Pedro. How dare you not talk about Pedro? He was an American hero. And then that kind of reached its apotheosis with the president, former reality television. And now, the stuff with Bunner Hyden, that's like reality television.
Oh, yeah.
Right. So it's just a big amalgamation of that. Right.
Yeah.
Pop culture, 24/7 infinite scroll, pop culture as politics.
Yeah, it's a very excellent point. I'd forgotten about Pedro. That was I watched The Real World as I got a little bit older. That was, I think, that was three was a little bit before my time,
Yeah,
but
it was San Francisco.
yeah.
And the girl in that worked for Jack Kemp.
Really?
She worked for Jack Kemp's campaign.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. That was a great season, dude.
I'm gonna see if I can find that somewhere.
Yeah.
There's a great cameo in this where Jay and Silent Bob are outside the soundstage. They're like on a tour, on a walking tour of the studio, and Jay looks over at Gail, and he's like, "Oh, hey, it's Connie Chung." He's like, "How's Mari?" Which
yeah, Smoochy Boochies. How's Connie Chung? Yes, that was cool.
Which
that's when Jay and Silent Bob were cool.
Yes,
they were cool. They were cool back then.
Yes,
especially Jay. He was fucking cool as hell.
Dude, he was the man in Clerks.
Yeah,
he was the coolest guy.
He had like a deep heroin Vicodin problem. Did you know that?
Yeah, I know he got like really bad into drugs for a while.
Yeah, they were cool though back then.
Oh yeah. And there's
is what I read somewhere in a magazine about.
Yes, I heard something about that.
Yeah.
And then I had another note here where Patrick Dempsey, who plays Detective Kincaid, where he mentions in passing, he mentions Hannibal Lecter and Seven, right? The movie with Brad Pitt and was it Morgan Freeman?
Morgan Freeman, yeah.
Which is interesting because I think that again goes back to his sort of obsession with movies, where he doesn't mention Bundy, he doesn't mention Kemper, he doesn't mention Zodiac. He specifically mentions Hannibal Lecter and said he mentions fictional serial killers, which I think kind of continues this sort of theme of the this obsession with movies in Hollywood. And then his partner sarcastically is like, oh, because there's like celebrities all over the place. He's like, oh, I'm gonna go, or I think it's because Gail Weathers shows up. These notes are a bit more scattered, but he says, I'm gonna go dust for fingerprints with Jane Pauley.
Yeah, now I like this guy's attitude.
He has a great attitude, and one of the things
he has no respect for the Hollywood people.
No,
he has kind of a boomer reference, but still he is funny.
yeah, because he like, to him, these people, it's just like whatever. I don't care about these people. Like I'm not starstruck by them. They don't mean anything. They're just they're no different than the other annoying people who I'm going to run into on a case. But one of the things that's interesting, and I don't, who knows what people know about in Hollywood, but I remember when I saw this, I remember Jane Pauley came out in 2016 and talked about being harassed when she was working at NBC back in the day. And so it kind of ties in with some of the stuff we've kind of alluded to here, and we're going to get into later. Another note I thought was interesting. I guess I got random notes all over the place. If you want to jump in with any of this, but there's the guy who's plays Parker Posey's bodyguard.
Patrick Warburton.
Yes, Patrick Warburton, who was great in this. He
check out the 8-ball. That guy.
He
all
mentions,
signs point to yes. Yeah. That
guy. He mentions, or I think she mentions, that he was Salman Rushdie's bodyguard, which I thought was interesting because Salman Rushdie was stabbed like a year or two ago. Which did you ever read any of his books?
I read a little bit of the Satanic Verses. Seinfeld, funny. Seinfeld also had that episode about him where Kramer recognized Salman Rushdie, and they were in the steam room together. And the guy introduced himself. He says, "Hello, my name is Sal Bass." And he goes, "Sal Bass, Jerry, Sal Bass." Yeah, he was though. He had the fatwa out on him.
Yes, that's right. Yeah. They were after him for a long time.
That's when Patrick Warburton. Yeah, that's when he's like, "Listen up, Dewdrop. My resume says that I protected people like Salman Rushdie. All right, so I think I'll give the orders around here. Okay, buddy. Okay, fella."
Which is funny because then he's, I think, the next person to get killed.
Yes. But he does deal with it better than anybody else in the movie.
Yes, he does fare better.
Fuck. When he gets stabbed in the back, it clearly doesn't affect him at first. He gets hit with a frying pan 3 times. I'm here in the what does he call it? I'm here in the silver bullet checking out things. What are you even doing there anyway? Right. I'm here making sure that my client is safe. And then he makes his way all the way to the house.
Yes.
Right. To sort of warn them. But then, of course, he points the finger at Dewey. We know that the characters who are not going to be the killer are obviously Sidney. It's going to be Sidney, Dewey, even though he's sort of pointed out, Dewey and then Courtney Cox. We think that those are the three safe characters. I read that the writer regretted killing off Jamie Kennedy's character in the second one. He said this could have been a legacy character. He's so interesting, but he does have the cameo in this on the video.
Yeah.
He is by far the most interesting character in all of them because he's a sort of a Greek chorus telling us what's happening, what's gonna, he gives us a play-by-play of how you're to survive, right? And that's another interesting thing is that the script is writing the scenes for the next death, right? And that is, spoiler alert, that's going to be later on. We're going to see that the director, there's a great line. He says, "I'm a director. I direct." Right, which was great. Clear, concise writing. I like that scene. But so Dewey, who, by the way, the scene at the end of the first one is so good because it does the usual suspects. Right. And Kevin Spacey was in 7 that you were just talking about.
Yes.
But where he's walking out with his limp, right? But it is weird how Dewey, Officer Doofy, or was that in Scary Movie? Maybe that was a Scary Movie, not in it was Scary Movie. But Officer Doofy gets a harsh time in all of this, right?
Yeah.
He's kind of unfairly painted as the fool, even though he doesn't. I mean, he's definitely a dum-dum. But he's unfair. And you can also see that the relationship clearly is David, the Arquette and Courtney Cox, that it's kind of a Tom Cruise. It's kind of a Z-level Tom Cruise and Nicole Kidman in this, like that they're clearly married in real life. They have some sort of relationship and they have this weird rivalry on the set when they're talking to each other. Courtney Cox also has that Betty Page, Kat Von D haircut. Right.
Yes.
Those real short bangs, very severe looking, not a good look. Her best role is obviously in Ace Ventura, right?
I never saw that one. I'm not a really Jim Carrey fan.
You've never seen Ace Ventura? Ventura. Yes, Satan? Oh, I'm sorry. I thought you were someone else. Listen, Mr. Chickadance. I told you. His landlord is the bad guy in Scarface, and he's the guy from Breaking Bad. That's his landlord, Mr. Chickadance. Yeah, Courtney Cox is in that. She's great.
Okay, I'm gonna have to watch that one. The only movie of his I really liked was Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind.
Dude,
I thought that one was good.
Fuck that, man. That's serious, Jim Carrey.
No, it's a great movie.
We're talking about, I mean, it is a good movie, but we're talking about Jim Carrey. Like Ace Ventura is, I don't know. I don't think it's dated at all. It's so good.
I'll watch that. You know what? I'll watch that one. I'll give that one a watch and see how I like it.
Yes. If I'd been drinking from the toilet, I might have been killed.
One of the things that we did, I did forget to mention is when in all the time there's this photo that shows up of this woman, and it's I can't remember who the first person is to get killed, but I think it was Cotton. It shows up. There's a photo left of this woman, and they finally they realize it's Maureen Prescott when she was young, Sydney's mother. Yeah, and these different like publicity photos that would keep appearing at the scene where these people get killed, and so then they realize that they always thought Maureen stayed in Woodsboro her whole life. She was born there, lived there, and died there, but they come to find out she did leave for 2 years and she went to Hollywood. And so there's, I don't remember I didn't know which character it is, but someone says that she fell into a black hole during the 2 years that she left, which I think is kind of symbolic. That's kind of like a microcosm of Hollywood, because Hollywood is this kind of, black hole that people kind of get sucked into. And it's almost
you
like
go to be an actress and then you get spit out the bottom of the prawn industry.
Yeah.
As Jerry says in Seinfeld. Yeah.
Basically what Celebrity Skin by Hole is about. You know the song Celebrity Skin?
Yeah, of course.
That's basically what that song's about.
Go on, take everything I want you to. Have you seen the thing about Courtney Love? Have you seen the internet clips of the guy who claimed that he did the thing to Kurt Cobain?
Oh, was that the guy from The Mentors?
Yeah. And he's like, no. He's like,
yes.
no. They go to interview him. If anybody's seen this, you can. I think it's still on. I think it's still up. They go to this guy's shed outside of Seattle, and he goes and does this interview. And he's like, "No, I know the guy who did it. Yeah, they paid him $25,000." And there's like you can hear people screaming in the background.
Holy
from
crap.
The shed. Yeah, it's very scary. And then the guy who did it was the singer of that band.
Yeah.
And then he got like decapitated on a train track the next day.
They say he passed out drunk on the train tracks.
Yeah.
That's the story.
Yeah, like the Boys on the Tracks with Larry Nichols. Yeah, sure.
Exactly. Yeah, sure. Very good point.
Yeah.
Which that guy was a disgusting degenerate, but it's like.
But he said that. He says that in an interview. He was like, "No, she paid me $25,000."
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then just winds up dead like the next day, run over, passed out. Of all the places you could pass out drunk, you pass out drunk right over the train tracks. That
So is the black hole the Eyes Wide Shut basement of the house?
That's a good point.
Is that where she got sucked into?
I think parties. Yeah. I think that's a good point. Yeah, that's
because Lance Henderson says, they all knew what they were doing. Okay.
Yeah, because he
because it involves blackmail in the Midnight Climax house.
Yes. So
it must be that's where she lost for 2 years.
Yeah, I think because it's I lost my train of thought, but I think that's probably implied that's kind of where, and we'll get to that more here in just a moment. I just want to make a quick thing because there's a whole scene where they're all at Parker Posey's character's house, and they're all kind of hanging out, drinking, smoking, because then always the movie off. They don't know what's going on with the movie, keeps getting rewritten. Then pages of the script start coming out on the fax machine, and they're all like all the characters are in a bunch like together, and then they're kind of running away. It's almost like classic kind of like old school comedy where people are freaking out over this thing. They're all bunched, they're moving as a unit, and then
upstairs, downstairs.
Yes, it's a very upstairs, downstairs. It's like a farce type of thing. And so then Dewey's like, no, this is because it's like printing off pages of this rewritten script, and that's a recurring thing. Is the script to Stab 3 keeps getting rewritten throughout the movie. So some of the characters are kind of complaining about, they keep rewriting it. And the people are being killed in the order that they're killed in the movie in Stab 3. Yeah. And so the new pages are printing off, and then Dewey's like, no, we got to go outside because it's saying like, don't go outside. But it's like, no, we have to go outside. So then the guy who's playing Dewey goes back in the house, is, trying to read the last page, flips the lighter, opens his Zippo, lights it, and then the killer left the gas on. The house blows up. Parker Posey, Courtney Cox, and David Arquette's characters like dive because she lives up in the hills. I guess they dive over the porch and roll. It's almost like slapstick, right? Like it's Dewey is kind of is like a throwback to the kind of old school slapstick kind of comedy.
Yeah, and they literally get gas lit.
Yes, yeah.
Also the line, Jason points out, the killer says he'll show mercy to the actor who smells the gas, which is kind of like the killer saying, oh no, he fell on my bullets.
Yeah.
Right. He fell on my silver bullet.
Right.
Right. I had this out for the werewolf stream.
Oh, sick.
Yeah.
So yeah, then we can kind of jump ahead here. So yeah, then we get to the point where they're on Dewey and Gail and Sydney are on the lot at whatever movie studio this is, and it's the same studio where the photos of Maureen were taken, and then they run into Randy Meeks, which was Jamie Kennedy's character. They run into her sister, who is the same actress that played Anne Hathaway's best friend in The Princess Diaries. Which I saw that movie because, you know, I have sisters, and when that movie came out, they're like, oh, we want to go see that. So I had to go see it. So, yeah. And then she plays this tape, which was recorded during the time of what the events in Scream 2.
Would you like to play a game, Sydney?
I like how you have these props just like pulling out knives. This is good. I like the visual element here.
Would you like to play a game, Sydney?
I can't do the terrible impersonations.
I've always got my props.
And so, yeah, Randy has this video where he explains the rules, right? Because he has all these rules about movies and rules about horror films. And do you want to do the explanation on this one?
Yeah, he gives the horror tropes, right? So he says rule 1, rule 2, rule 3, and basically it's that he says one of them that I remember him saying is that if you think that the story that you're involved in now, because it is a story within a story where the new sides are being written for the script coming out of the fax machine as if they're coming from beyond, right? Because Jamie Kennedy comes in through beyond on a screen because he's made a videotape. And he says, if you think it's too full of explanation and exposition, then it's not. That's a point because that will be important for the third movie in the trilogy where the character always goes back to their roots. And another one is if you think that there's something from your past that you haven't unearthed, get ready because it's going to be exposed. And also, part 3 of the trilogy always has a killer who is superhuman. He seems to be superhuman. It's impossible to kill him. I think those are the 3 things that he says. And then he says, if you make it, good luck and Godspeed. And if you make it, that's great. And if you don't, I'll see you soon because, of course, he's dead. He's made this videotape for the future.
Yeah, I think that the point he makes about these horror, the trilogies are rare in horror. It's not really something you see in horror films. And he says that like the killer, you can't kill, you can stab him, you can shoot him, he's not going to die. He says something like you have to cut his head off and cryogenically freeze it in order to take him out. And then
which is a Walt Disney reference.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. I know that
I didn't even pick up on that initially.
I know that Teeter Peele, because I think the thing about Disney, they say now is not true that he's not cryogenically frozen, but that apparently he was decapitated. But who knows? But I know that Teeter Peele did this in real life. That he's put his body up for cryogenic freezing.
That's
for reanimation.
Actually going to work is hilarious. Yeah. But yeah, he specifically mentions Godfather 3 and Return of the Jedi. It says other true trilogies. He has this. He kind of really emphasizes that point about how you're going to. They always reveal something that wasn't true from the get-go. Something we thought was true that isn't true. So there's going to be some kind of revelation of. And so I think that was kind of interesting that he really. And that's, kind of, I guess, I don't know if it'd be foreshadowing in the strictest sense, but
cryogenic freezing is also in Austin Powers. Remember, that's how Austin Powers and Dr. Evil come back. And it's how Simon Phoenix and Sylvester Stallone come back in Demolition Man.
Oh, yes. Demolition Man. Yeah. That's a good point.
That was a big thing in 2000. Like when that reference point is obvious to anybody watching it. In 2000, that was a big thing that everybody talked about. It's kind of like Han Solo and Carbonite, but everybody's heard the Walt Disney thing, or at least they did back then. But it's interesting that he's coming back over the television screen, like within the movie set, like he's in a movie within the movie within the movie.
Yeah.
So he's also a character from beyond speaking to the. So in a way, he's a kind of I guess he would be kind of a psychopomp, which I covered last night in my stream on The Dark Half. Please, everybody, if you haven't seen my stream on The Dark Half, if you're watching this now or later, please go back and watch my Dark Fall Spooktober spooky season. And it was Jay and Jamie that did. That's a trademark, Spooktober.
Okay.
You mentioned in the intro. This is The Dark Half, Stephen King. I covered this last night. Please go back and watch that. Psychopomp is an archetypal, usually like it can be an animal like it is in The Dark Half, which is this flock of sparrows, but it's any archetype that guides the living either back to life or to the dead. So it's between two worlds. And in the book, it's explained that like St. Michael is a kind of psychopomp, right? Anubis is a psychopomp. So Jamie Kennedy kind of functions as that in the film, I suppose.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Beyond the living.
Yeah. So, and I think that's something I like, that they kind of play with that sort of like the layers, where it's like, like you said, he's sort of making him. I mean, it's not a movie in the strict, but he's like filming himself. So it's like he's making this movie, which is inside of a movie, which is inside of a movie, which is kind of related to I think I missed a step there. People I think you get what I mean.
It's clever that they make the title a verb, that scream is a verb. It's an action. There's action happening. It's so well written, the first one, and this one is well written as well, that, that we're on a journey where the things keep moving forward. It doesn't really get lost, which is pretty good. And that even they make the movie within the movie stab, right? Like it's a thing, something's gonna, it's like in Family Guy when they have, Maniac Pope. They go to see Maniac Pope. And he kills a character named Bruce, and he goes, "You've been Brucified," which is
oh man, some of that stuff Seth MacFarlane comes up with is he's a character.
That's silly. It's verging on blasphemy, but it's but it's funny how they do it in the show, though, as a parody relating to that. But yeah. So you were saying the writing in the movie within the movie.
Yeah, I think that you mentioned with the pacing is that I think that's one of the things where the movies really shine. Is there's no wasted time. There's no, like, it moves along at a good clip, so it doesn't feel like you're kind of racing through it, and it doesn't feel like it's dragging. Like, I mean, I think Wes Craven was a brilliant filmmaker. I think the things that he did were, I mean, really something, because he really kind of I think he expanded like what can be encompassed within the genre of horror, like we were talking about earlier, where it sort of subverts the genre. But I think that these films also do, function within the horror genre. It's almost kind of, and it's not a Lynchian sort of film, but it's similar to if you watch Twin Peaks, where David Lynch, there's like this extreme kind of psychological terror, and then it's interspersed with this, the scenes of it's like a soap opera, kind of scenes between, these sort of, lovers having, like, oh, this guy, he, like, James wants to run away, and Donna's like, oh no, don't leave, or whatever. And then, there's the soap opera within the film. So anyway, I think that it's
all the characters are constantly in motion.
Yes.
They're always doing something. They're always moving. They're not walking in a West Wing sense, like they're not doing a talk and walk, but everything they do has a sense of urgency, right? And they're constantly moving. And I like that the film is it has to walk a fine line. Its films have to walk a fine line between being actually scary. There has to be something actually scary for it to be truthful, right? I mean, the reveal in Scream 1 is very clever, because it turns out that it's two killers.
Yeah.
So we have a split, right? We have a physical split between characters, and we have a split between the costume and the mask, and the mask that they have to wear. And this one is a parody of the Hollywood filmmaking process itself. It's not quite a satire, because it's not meant to change anything. It did change things, but it's not meant to change things on a political scale, and it's lighthearted. So it's functions more as a parody. But the parody also has to be, if something is a parody, or especially if it's a satire, it has to be truthful in both ways. It can't just be for yucks, right? And he walks a fine line between two disparate genres, which is comedy and horror. And that's very difficult to do, right?
Yeah.
Like you were saying, it's not played for the only character that really plays things for laughs would be Arquette's character. It seems I guess when I watch him in the movie, I mean, this is truthful for his character, but I do get a sense that I'm watching a guy like having too much fun playing his character. Like he's reading the line. I can see his eyes reading the lines.
Yeah.
Which is a thing. But Jamie Kennedy could be like that, but he isn't. He's very truthful to his character. His character is in the world. He's in the world of the movie. Arquette's character is kind of not quite as strong. And that might be him as an actor. I don't know. But overall, the movies are very good. Neve Campbell is very good. You know, there's a thing about the final girl, you know, that is dangerous, which is that the character can be too weepy and cryy throughout the movie. She can be in danger too much in the movie, and therefore we lose sympathy for her. She has to show variety in terms of her character and her characterization. She has to be normal, but also when the scary parts take place, they leave more of an impact if she's normal as a contrast to that.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
she does a fairly good job of this. They didn't really do it as great in this movie, but the first one is because, you know, I like at the beginning when we see her house and she goes in and she locks the gate, she presses the alarm, she locks the doors, she makes sure her dog is there. And that provides a nice bookend because at the end of the movie, the last scene is the door is left open and she's okay with that. So that's a great, you know, bow tie. That's a great tie to, you know, I think to tie up the movie in a nice bow there that Wes Craven did. And that's only works if, you know, we have sympathy for the character.
Yeah, I think with one thing with her character is that she's not like a, you know, like, oh, I'm going to be tough. I'm going to go, you know, like beat everybody up. But she's also not this like weepy. It's like there are times where she, you know, does express fear and terror and, you know, sort of anguish. But at the same time, she's not like this. I'm losing my voice. She's not like this.
Don't worry. You don't sound like me yet. So you're all right. You're okay, but you're all right, buddy.
We'll power through it, folks.
Yeah, we'll power through it.
But yeah, she is this sort of, there's like a good balance. She seems like a regular person, you know. She's not like this. Yeah. Oh, I'm gonna go, you know. She's not like a soup, you know, a caped crusader type of, you know, going and beating everybody up in, you know, Avengers 17 or whatever. But yeah, she is. I think she's sort of a normal character, and there's a scene where she gets chased through the set, and you know what's supposed to be her, it's like made up to be her house, and she's being chased by Ghostface on this soundstage where there's no lights on, and there's when Ghostface finds her and he's coming towards her, and there's this like part where there's like these kind of layered voices where it's talking about like, oh, she was, you know, flashing her stuff all over town like she was Sharon Stone, she was no Sharon Stone. And it was like, you know, there's like the scene, there's, you know, all these kind of voices, and you're trying to decipher what's going on. And a lot of these, there's a bunch of things in here that if people have seen this, they already know the end of it. But a lot of things in here point to who the killer is.
Yeah.
And there's an end kind of, it's foreshadowing where it's like, oh, you know, your mother was, you know, involved with it, with my father. And, you know, then Maureen saying, oh, I lied, Sydney. I can't protect you at all. You don't deserve to be protected. You didn't protect me.
Yeah.
And so it's sort of instilling this sense of like guilt. And then this kind of goes back to what I was saying, where it's like this, there's a lot more like psychological kind of torture where it's like messing with people's heads, the victims' heads, as opposed to, you know, just coming out and stabbing them.
I just realized this movie is a lot like the Deadpool. Have you seen that movie? Great Clint Eastwood. It's a great Clint Eastwood Dirty Harry movie. 1980, it's like 1987. And it's the movie that features Guns N' Roses. So, okay. And it's got Jim Carrey. So Jim Carrey plays this rock star in the movie. And he is, he's a rock star character in the movie. And he's like, it's an early Jim Carrey. It's even before In Living Color, and he's like, "You're all over me, man!" And he goes back to his trailer, and he shoots up, and then he dies. And then they're playing Welcome to the Jungle at the beginning of the movie, and then Guns N' Roses is in the movie, and Slash like shoots a harpoon gun, and the director of the movie within the movie is Liam Neeson, and Liam Neeson.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and Liam Neeson like is under, like as if he is directing the movie, he's also directing the murders, and he's a strong suspect because he's like nothing's gonna get in the way of my movie. Nothing's gonna fucking get in the way of my movie. Some deaths or whatever, right? And it's just like the director in this. The director is obviously a prime suspect for this,
right?
But they go after celebrity victims. The killer goes after celebrity victims in that. It's
a dead
pool because he's got a list of names of victims.
Yeah.
So you kind of figure it's going to be. You either think it's going to be the detective because of the "I'm the killer" in the background, Patrick Dempsey, and he grew up in Hollywood.
Right.
He's seen death all around, and he comes from outside. Or it's going to be somebody from the inside, a new character, which is going to be the director. It's not going to be one of the ladies. I don't know about the reboots. It probably is one of the ladies in the new ones, but.
And the fourth one, it was Emma Roberts' character.
Oh, of course.
Yeah,
as if, right?
Yeah. I keep going back and forth between notes. Just a few things I wanted to hit on here. Some things I thought were kind of interesting. Is Patrick Dempsey's character mentions there are 3 versions of the script. They're trying to keep the ending off the internet. It's like you mentioned tech, right? This is kind of like the birth of the internet, where things are going to get leaked. And then there's 2 things where Roman says, he mentions that he has to make the studio.
It would only take 44,000 hours to download that version on the internet in 2000, right? I mean, give me a fucking break. When I saw that line, I was like, who's watching it? It's 2000.
Yeah.
Right. I'm on Yahoo Mail. I don't give a fuck about any of this in 2000. Right.
Yeah. But
it is predictive. Yeah.
Was it like 70 years from now? I'm going to go get the ending will finally be downloaded.
Yeah.
But yeah, Roman, he says the studio is making him do a scary movie before they'll let him make a love story like he wants to. And I mean, he's not really a serious director because he's kind of an idiot. Like he says that there's a scene where he meets with John Milton, right, who's the producer for the film, and
yes,
he says he tells him Variety has called Roman a pariah, and Milton says, "Oh well, it's good for your mystique." And Roman seems kind of concerned for just a minute, and then he's like, "You think it'll help with my career?" Right? Like,
yeah.
And that's the idea. Controversy generates buzz, right? It generates money, and so it's like he doesn't even care. He's just like, "Oh, this is going to be good for my career." And there's references throughout this of where like Jennifer, the Jenny McCarthy character, says she makes some kind of offhanded comment about like, saying that people should remind her not to sleep with Roman again, right? And this is the same thing which we find out Parker Posey's character also slept with Roman, because they kind of have banter later on in the film when they get to Milton's house. And so there's this kind of
just like another you were mentioning, just like another Roman at Cielo Drive.
Exactly.
In Chaos, the book Chaos, they mentioned finding the tapes of the forced sex clubs and activities that he was involved with. So yeah, it's a good point with that.
Yeah, there's a mention of where we find out the Emily Mortimer character who's playing, I guess she was supposed to be playing Sydney. She was the idea was like, oh, well, she won this contest to play her in the movie. And out of all these people, she was the one who was selected. And then we find out later she got it because she slept with Milton.
That was the contest. Yeah.
Yeah, that was the contest. She was the one. That's how she got. And she's a very kind of like timid sort of character. Almost seems to have this kind of like, I don't want to say tortured because that's like overdone, but she seems to have this kind of, she's very conflicted. And like there's something with the character, she plays it as if there's something wrong and we don't know what it is. Like she has something that's weighing on her, and it's not revealed until we find out.
She has one of the most with the scene where they're in the house and they got to stick together and she runs away down the hall. Go back and watch how she runs down the hall. Oh my, it's like, I don't even think it was intentional. She literally runs down the hall like this.
Okay.
Her legs are you're like, wow, okay.
It was probably the worst run. Yeah.
She's the English actress, and she's pretty cute in this movie.
Yeah.
But she's got her pants, not that I'm saying I don't give a shit, but she's, just another pantsed up character running like this. Right. There were a lot of things in this movie, like the woman coming out of the shower and her hair's not wet and she doesn't have a thing on, or like when Dempsey comes in through the door and he's got the Derringer in his hand, and like the door opens and the Derringer comes first. Like, dude, if somebody's in the house and you're going to see if they're in the room, don't come through slowly and put the gun in first, because if he's on the other side of the door, they're going to stab your hand or shoot your hand or grab your hand. It takes him 5 minutes to come through with the Derringer comes around like this. And also, it's like, if you think he's on the other side, bust into the room. Don't walk in slowly and then turn like this. No, you do a full Sam Hyde through the drywall. You bust in through the room and just and start shocking all blasted. Right.
Yeah, don't put this guy in a self-defense situation. Don't put Kincaid in a self-defense situation.
Exactly.
But it's kind of, that to me was, which I agree. Like, that was a tactic. I was like a tactical guy here, but like, that's a terrible idea. But it does seem to be a callback, a throwback to the imagery of like film noir, right? We have these kind of like guns, and it's kind of reminiscent of like what you see in like Sin City. This kind of idea of I don't know, I was going somewhere with that anyway. I lost my train of thought, but yeah, so they show up at Milton's house, and Milton's not there. But it's supposed to be for Roman's birthday party, but nobody's there. That's another thing that was interesting, is nobody shows up except for the cast. So it's like, I don't know if this guy just like has no friends, or people don't like him.
It's Cielo Drive. It's 10050 Cielo Drive again.
Yeah.
Right. Roman Polanski lives there, but he's not there. They show up for the thing. He's not there.
Right.
And it is literally Jeff Stein McEffery's New York mansion.
Mm-hmm.
Right. But in California, I mean, it's tunnels and back rooms and two-way mirrors and a secret eyes wide shut thing in the basement.
Yes.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. Because actually, one thing we did miss, I just wanted to mention this really quick, is so they're trying to find out Parker Posey and what was it, I think, was it Jennifer? I think it was Jennifer and Gail. They're trying to find out more about Maureen. Where with these publicity.
Is that
photos.
The mother?
Yeah, Sydney's mother. And so they go down to this basement, like the archives at the studio, and there's a woman sitting there, and they're like, "Are you?" And she's like, "No." She's like sitting there smoking a cigarette. She's like, "No," and it's Carrie Fisher, right? Yes. And it's implied to be like, "Oh, this is Carrie Fisher," and they're like, "Are you sure?" She's like, "Yes," and so then she's working the desk at the archives, and
that was a good parody, because they say, "Are great. You?" And she says, "No, I'm not. I'm not her." Carrie Fisher got her role by sleeping with George Lucas. She says that, so she's parodying it. That's a great bring up. Yeah. And the thing I thought, by the way, when I watched this was, wow, Carrie Fisher looks banging in this movie, dude. She's really, I've never seen her this hot except for when she was Leia. But then I looked it up, and she's my age now when she filmed the movie. She's like 43 when she filmed the movie. And I thought, damn, she looks good.
Yeah.
She really looked, I really liked her in that movie. By the way, have you read Carrie Fisher's book?
I have not.
Postcards from the Edge. This is a first edition copy of her book, Postcards from the Edge. They made a film with like Meryl Streep and somebody else, Jessica Lange or somebody in it. But this is a great book. And this is Carrie Fisher talking about going into rehab for like Percodan, heroin, and cocaine in the 70s and 80s. And because, she says she couldn't remember any of Return of the Jedi because she was on Percodan. They don't make Percodan anymore. Now it's just Percocet. But but she was very fucked up when she made the movie. And then, of course, when she died a few years ago, remember, I think this is some sort of weird humiliation ritual thing. Because when she died, they said we found 19 substances in her on the plane. right? She was on Demerol, Percocet, Vicodin, hydrocodone, Lortab, Lorcet, fentanyl, heroin, morphine, hydromorphone, Xanax, Valium, Klonopin, like every fucking drug. It was like, damn, dude, she was flying high on that what was the Snoop Dogg movie about the airplane?
Soul Plane.
Yeah, she was flying high on Soul Plane. She was fucked up.
Well, you know what's funny?
Her daughter is in American Horror Story that I just covered in the Final Girl.
Oh, yeah.
Analysis. That's one of those girls is her daughter, is one of the mainstays of American Horror Story. But yeah, that was interesting to have her in there because she did it was interesting because she's in the archives, like you were saying, like she's an archived star.
Yeah.
Right. And that they recognize her, but she's not really the person. She's parroting herself. So that was good. I liked how they put her in there. Yeah.
Yeah, the thing with the draw, it's just totally unrelated. I was going to mention, I was a big fan of the show Workaholics, and it reminds me of that scene where they have to take the drug test, and the drug test at work, and it's like, because they just smoked weed on the way to work, and they're like, oh no, we have a drug test today, and so one of the guys goes and just like they distract the guy who's there to the drug test, and he goes and like pees in all of the drug test cups, and so then their boss is yelling at this guy, and she's like, oh, it's, she's listening. It's like, marijuana. It's like, this and that. It's, Valtrex. It's Dayquil, NyQuil. Why would anyone take both?
Yeah. No, it's like in the movie Buffalo Soldiers of Joaquin Phoenix. Great movie about running the black market and the Marseille French Connection heroin operation in 1989 at the army base in Germany. And Ed Harris is the boss, and he says the guy died. We did a tox report on him. He had heroin, cocaine, LSD. He had what do you call the woman pills? The pills. Not testosterone. What do you call this?
Midol.
Yeah, he's Midol. He was trying to get pregnant. Right. In other words, the guy was taking every fucking pill and thing.
This is whatever he can get his hands on.
It's a fucked up place, sir. That's okay.
But one thing that was interesting is the reason they can't find anything about Maureen Prescott is because she went by the name Rena Reynolds. And wasn't Debbie Reynolds Carrie Fisher's mother?
Yes. Yes.
Yeah. So I don't know if that's a nod to Debbie Reynolds or not, but I thought that was kind of interesting.
Maureen is Maureen a reference to Maureen O'Hare?
Oh, O'Hara, I didn't think about that. Yeah, yeah.
I don't know. Maybe.
Yeah, I mean, again, I tend to think that these names are probably there's meaning behind them because like I mentioned earlier, I think that with Craven, everything has meaning. There's nothing there by accident.
Have you seen the Jethro sent me the video of the guy? He said, if I was in charge of creative direction at Sphere in Las Vegas. Have you seen that video on Instagram?
I don't think so.
You know what Sphere is in Vegas, right?
No.
Sphere is the big bubble with like 360 degrees video. It's this huge, like U2 did a concert and it's like visuals everywhere. It's a gigantic bubble over a stadium and they can project on the outside and the inside.
Okay.
And it's like, it's very wild looking. But anyway, here's the guy talking about if I was in charge of.
If you get any type of psychedelic tonight, we know exactly who you are. And you're going to be in big trouble. The police are on the way. Didn't you know those were illegal? You're not going to get away with this one. I'm sorry. Danger.
Did you hear what he says? And his face comes on the Sphere and he's looking down at the people. If you did any psychedelics, we know exactly who you are. Danger.
Oh, that's funny. Yeah, and this gets to, we kind of get to the point where Gail and Dewey, and maybe there's another, maybe I don't think Sydney's with them. I can't remember. I think she might be at the police office, but so they bust up into Milton's office, and they confront him about the whole Maureen Prescott, Rena Reynolds thing, and so
that's Lance Henriksen, right?
Yes.
John,
okay. And so Roman's in there and he's like, oh, Roman, why don't you go on ahead and, like wait to cut the cake until I get there, right? But of course, there's no cake, there's no party going on. And then I think it was the Emily Mortimer character was like, "Oh, it's your birthday!" Like she didn't even remember it's his birthday. Like, "Oh, happy birthday, Roman!" And so, yeah, this is where he talks about. He has this great line where he says, "Hollywood is full of criminals whose careers are flourishing." And he talks about the parties that he threw at his house in the 70s where these aspiring actresses could meet men who could get them parts in movies. And he said, nothing happened to her, meaning Maureen/Rena, that she didn't invite in one way or another. Things got out of hand. Maybe they did take advantage of her. The sad truth is, this is not the city for innocence. And then he says, if you want to get ahead in Hollywood, you got to play by the rules or go home.
By their
and so
rules.
he just lays it all out there. He's like, yeah, this is how it is. This is what we do.
Yeah, and it's funny that this came out a year after Eyes Wide Shut, where Ziegler says the exact same thing at the end of the film.
Yeah.
Right. She knew what she was doing. She was a junkie whore. Right. And it's like, well, she didn't know she was going to be at a party with the R-Childs, sacrificing you know what, right? And cannibalistic rituals, for Satan. No, maybe she didn't, or maybe she did, but that doesn't, yeah. So that's where her mother slipped into this time hole.
Right? Yeah, and God, and then there's a mention later. I think I made notes about this where.
Keep talking. I'm gonna get a Red Bull real quick.
Okay. Yeah, where I guess I can get to that in a minute. I don't want to give too much away, but yeah, I mean, mention of the slapstick. Like, there's Ghostface shows up. He's chasing him around this house and the Milton's house, and so the Ghostface is down in the basement at the bottom of the stairs, and I think Gail had gotten locked in there. Ghostface, I think she like threw him down, pushed him down the stairs. He got knocked out, and this is one of the things I like about Ghostface as a villain is when you watch a film, when you watch a Friday the 13th, right? Which I like some of those films, Nightmare on Elm Street, right? Halloween. The character, like the killers, the monsters are invincible. It's like you can't. But you see that with Ghostface, and this is consistent throughout all four of the films, is if he's running, he'll like slip. He'll get off balance. He's not this killer that's like always balanced, always stable, always kind of on point. There's a sort of very much a human element to him, and so this is another slapstick thing where. So Dewey like kicks, busts open the door, starts shooting, pulling the trigger on his gun. He's out of bullets. So Ghostface, like this was kind of over the top. Ghostface throws the knife and it's going end over end, and the hilt of it hits Dewey right in the forehead, and square in the forehead, and then he falls down the stairs, into the basement. And so that's when Kincaid, the Patrick Dempsey character shows up, and that's when him and Sidney are kind of pointing guns at each other, and that's when he does the whole because I do think he sort of sees himself as an actor, and his life is like a movie, and so he kind of behaves like that stereotypical cop in like how he would react in these kind of situations. So then there's the secret screening room then Kincaid at one point says that Hollywood is about death. And I think that means literal, because we see how the crime is just through the roof. And I think it's also a spiritual death. And it's sort of a cultural death, is because this is sort of like where culture is created in a sense, but it's also where it's like it's just a dead end culture. And there's nothing really. I mean, there are creative people in Hollywood. I'm not saying that, but ultimately, it's not really creative. It's not fostering the creative spirit in any kind of meaningful sense, because sometimes things slip through. But a lot of people who are doing things that really are creative, they don't. I think there is a market for that, but they don't make a market for it, because we have to do, Fantastic Four number 83 or whatever it is.
Yeah. Babylon, Hollywood Babylon, go and get ya, Babylon. Big up to you, Screwface. Big up, Team Kingston. Babylon, you go there for ego death and spiritual death, right?
Yes.
And there is, like you're saying, the medium of film and Hollywood, it is supposed to be about, creation, the creation of art. Right. And film is certainly the the medium, or at least was up until recently, the medium of a new sort of tapestry of art, right? It's something that's completely new, combines, theater and photography and technology and writing, right? Verse, a kind of libretto. I mean, in a way, right? It does all those things. And um, even when it is co-opted in terms of the high concept and propaganda, it can do those things. But like you said, you have to make your way through so much sludge and shit
Mm-hmm.
and ego death, spiritual death, sacrificing themselves as people in order to live forever on a celluloid screen.
Right.
Right. So that they are forever young there, but they are, subject to the physical, the expedited physical corruption of plastic surgery and the
Mm-hmm.
plasticine, reality of Hollywood. And I think that the film makes a good commentary on that, and a good, it's a good parody of that. And it's a time capsule in a way. I mean, films like this this film is good because it lives, and it's present and has predictive things, revelatory things, but it's also a time capsule of a time, before Big Nine. This is a big pre-Big Nine, post Y2K film.
Yeah.
And it has a sense of innocence to it, even though it has those revelatory things that you were just describing. Also, I didn't get a Red Bull out of the fridge. I got myself a Starby here. It's
Is
not a
that a
triple
mint?
thought. It's not a triple thought energy. No, it's just coffee. It's
Oh,
coffee.
I saw
It's
the
just
green.
Starby.
So I didn't know if there was
No,
a
that's the
mint
coffee.
element.
No,
Yeah.
I don't do mint.
You're not a mint guy.
I don't like. Yeah, I don't like mint ice cream. You know what I hate? You know what really grinds my gears? Pistachio ice cream. I don't like sweet and
Yeah.
savory mixed together. I don't get that. Ovaltine. Why don't they call it Roundtine? Discuss. Talk amongst yourselves. But yeah.
Oh, go ahead.
No, what happens next? There's they go to the house.
Yeah, so they're at the house, and then they're kind of getting chased around by Ghostface, and then Sydney gets lured into, because she's like running from Ghostface, and she's looking. I don't know why I don't know if she thinks there's like a secret path. I can't remember why, but she pulls all these books off the bookshelf, pulls this one book, it opens up. It's like a vault.
She sees a light under the door. She sees a light.
Yes, that's it. She sees the light, and then so she gets lured into this room by her mother, her quote unquote mother's voice, where, and this is interesting because
Carol Ann, Carol Ann, I'm in the dark terror tunnels. Carol Ann. And that's because Parker Posey, remember, collapsed like in the bathroom and then went through the turnaround door into the tunnel. That's where they found that it had secret tunnels in it.
That's yeah.
And then she ended up down in the basement with Roman, and then he ended up in the casket with the knife in his chest, which is when you're watching it, you're like, this is obviously this is the stage makeup, right? He's not dead. And they find that out later because his head is guillotined and a plastic head falls off, which mirrors the head being cut off of what were you talking about earlier with the head being cut off?
The cryogenically freezing the
yes
head. Yeah. Oh, that's a good. I didn't even think. I guess if people haven't seen the movie, we're about to reveal here in a moment. Spoiler alert. I mean, this movie's only 23 years old. Is that Roman does? He turns out to be the killer, which I guess we could just address that from the beginning, but whatever. But it's interesting. Two things I wanted to mention is, one thing I didn't want to go back to. So when this film came out, a lot of people were kind of talking about it in relation to the Me Too movement, which that kind of took on a life of its own. I think initially I was actually like, I don't have a problem with, I think this is a good thing because, for people who, have been, taken advantage of in various kind of ways, preyed upon, predated upon, like calling people out. And I think that's one of the things that initially was good because they're like, hey, a lot of times people come out like, oh, this thing happened, that thing. And I get, there's people, it could be lawsuits, whatever. There's all kinds of problems. But people were coming out and saying, hey, like Harvey Weinstein was doing this stuff. Bryan Singer was doing this kind of stuff. And this is what other people said. I think Harvey Weinstein was convicted, so we can say that. But This was sort of and then people were kind of, because I looked this up later, and people were kind of writing think pieces about this film in the light of Me Too. And again, I thought initially, I was like, I don't have a problem. I think this is a good thing, because again, a lot of people, if you talk to people who've had these, experience those kinds of things, and, abuse or whatever it may be, is that it can be a very isolating thing. And so when there's other people out there saying like, hey, I've been through the same thing, it sort of creates the sense that like, people aren't alone in this. And so, but again, it kind of took off in a weird direction.
Except for it's a diversion from an open secret, right?
Yeah, and that's what I'm getting at is right, and that's so I think on the surface I was like, okay, this is good, but when people were kind of writing the think pieces about this through the lens of Me Too, it sort of functioned as a limited hangout, because it's like, okay, well, here's this thing. Yeah, you got these directors and producers who are like, oh, getting women to sleep with them to get roles, but it's so much more than that. It's a lot darker than. It's like you said with the address, the Polanski, Sharon Tate house. It's like these kinds of things, right? It's like Woody Allen.
It's like what Corey Haim said about Charles Sheen on the set of Lucas.
Yeah.
Or what happened to Corey Haim and Corey Feldman, right?
Right.
Or the things about Jacko, right?
Yep.
Or the things that were alleged about Jacko, or the things that were alleged about Charles Sheen, or the things that were alleged. I mean, the fact that they put Drew Barrymore, right? Those pictures of Drew Barrymore, like all, on, oh, look, it's so cute. She's on cocaine and, she's drunk and she's at Studio 54 and she's at the time, right, at the age that she was, or the stuff about Poltergeist that I mentioned last night, which we can't even discuss, the stuff that happened to her. I mean, that's the thing. That's the real
girl's name.
Heather O'Rourke.
Heather O'Rourke. Yeah, but no, you're absolutely right. That's what's really that's the real stuff. It's not. And look, I'm not defending these weird, creepy, like Harvey Weinstein, Bryan Singer type. I mean, I think Bryan Singer was doing arguably worse stuff, or allegedly was arguably doing worse stuff than Weinstein. But I mean, again, I'm not defending these people, but it's like
I'm not. Yeah,
it's anyway. I'm not going to like sit here and grade these things, but there's a lot darker. And I mean, what Weinstein was doing was dark, but like there's a lot of darker type of thing, like you were just talking about. And you have to wonder, like, okay, why was Drew Barrymore, like, an alcoholic and a cokehead at like 12, 14 years old, right? Like something, it's not just like, oh, I'm going to go out and party. Like there's something, anyway, I'm not going to speculate or make accusations, but that's just a weird thing. And then Roman actually says, he talks about Milton's screening room. He's a legend of his secret screening room, and he describes his home as old Hollywood. It says the screening room was rumored to have, quote, drinks, drugs, girls, and movies and shit.
Which is a very acceptable Hollywood way of describing other things.
Yes, 100%.
Right.
And so
old Hollywood is a throwback to Kenneth Anger. Like that's what Kenneth Anger talks about in Hollywood Babylon. Hollywood. Yeah. I mean, he talks about the old screening rooms, and he talks about like Rudolph Valentino and what he was really known for. And all these other characters in the book. That's his reference point, right? Is the golden age of Hollywood going. And then, and Lance Henderson also says, he says that thing about like, I was an auteur. Mm-hmm. I was trying to make movies, which is like, he's trying to say that he's, what's the guy's name? Robert Evans. Like he's trying to act like he was Robert Evans. Right. Which is probably, he's obviously referencing the 70s. Right. It was a different time. The morals stay the same.
Yeah.
Right. Just because of the different time changes. But it's supposed to be a take on that. So yeah, you're right.
Yeah. And that's, yeah, and one thing I was going to say with and obviously, I mean, like, Ghostface uses a voice changer, right? Like that's how how he gets that consistent voice, but also can mimic other people's voices. But it also, it just makes me think of this, AI trend of like, and I think Carrie Fisher was one of, we're going to have Carrie Fisher, like an AI hologram Carrie Fisher using, voice that's sampled from her real voice. And
Carrie Fisher and Peter Cushing. They use Peter Cushing. And Peter Cushing, it's interesting because I don't know what his contractual contractual things said, but like the fact he'd been dead for a long time,
Mhm.
right? And they resurrect him, into Hollywood infinity,
Yeah.
which is very odd. And then the writer's strike just ended. I think the actor strike is still going on, but it's interesting that you bring that up because it's like they have this 2000s version of a physical voice changer instead of a
Mhm.
deepfake AI system, which
Yeah.
is totally possible now. Right.
Oh, 100%. Yeah, because it sounds exactly like the voices, and then so Sydney gets lured into this screening through the hallway into this screening room where Maureen is talking about how much everyone loved her, asking if Sydney would like to hold her one more time. Before it's like, oh, surprise, this is actually Ghostface, and then surprise, it's actually Roman. Like Roman is actually the one who is Ghostface in this one, and so he reveals that um
Just to
so yeah
break there,
Roman.
while you think of that, Dancing K says Evans and Steve McQueen. Did Evans orchestrate his death? I don't know. I don't think so. With Steve McQueen, only because Stephen McKing, Stephen King, Stephen McQueen, died of what's the cancer you get from asbestos?
Mesothelioma.
Yeah, he got mesothelioma, and I only think that is probably true because I know that when he was in the Navy, around World War II, like his job was tearing out asbestos. Obviously they were like, get in there and clean out that asbestos all day, every day for 3 years. And so I think that's probably true. Maybe with, what's her name? Natalie Wood, something about that. And I wouldn't be surprised. I mean, remember Evans had something to do with the, he and Nicholson and Polanski were all in the thing together. And so I wouldn't put it past him with someone else, but I don't think it was with Steve McQueen. Yeah.
There was an article I just had it pulled up on my phone. I was going to see if it's going to, yeah. Okay. Just speaking of Natalie Wood, there's an article from Vanity Fair I ran across from November 2021 where her sister Lana, details, and people out there may know about this if they follow this kind of stuff, that Natalie Wood was assaulted, right, in a very specific way by Kirk Douglas. That's her claim. That's what her sister Lana alleges in this book, that when Natalie was assaulted, it was by Kirk Douglas.
What do you think about her she was Robert Maxwell, right? Do you think that's true? Christopher Walken was on board and it was Robert Wagner, or do you think that they were wasted on this, they were wasted on this, what's the guy's name? What's the newspaper? Hearst. It was like a Hearst yacht, right? A cat's meow Hearst yacht, and she just fell overboard. I don't know. It would make sense that something happened, and I guess over the years there's been strong speculation that Wagner and all that. I think is Wagner still alive? I think he is.
I think he might be.
Yeah. But very interesting.
I think it's suspicious.
Yes, because it is Hollywood.
It's highly suspicious.
Hey, you want to get out on this Robert Maxwell yacht, and then we'll go for a point break kamikaze surf ride in the middle of the night in the middle of the ocean? Sure, sounds great. I don't.
Yeah, okay. That's normal behavior, like everybody does. Nothing weird going on there. So Roman also reveals himself as Sydney's half brother, right? Because he was Maureen was his mother, because he was. But he never explicitly says if he was given up for adoption or raised by his father. We don't really know, but Sydney's mother had him. I guess got impregnated. Maybe it was by one of the Hollywood people. We don't know. Was
that's
it
what
said,
they said,
or was it implied?
That's what they implied. That's what they implied in the movie.
Yeah,
was that it was through one of the Hollywood people, and that so he's the kind of not a twin. He's not a Gemini.
Yeah,
not an astrological Gemini, but archetypal Gemini.
Right.
And that I never had a dad. Right. So that's why he's mad.
Yeah, because he whines about.
I want everything if I can't have everything you want, you have. I'm gonna get everyone. Do you like? I never had movies when I was young, Sydney. Now I make movies. Right.
Which would actually make sense if he was raised by a dad who was in that world, how he got to that. Now, granted, he's not really taken seriously, but I mean, a lot of these, Hollywood children are not, really taken all that seriously. But yeah, his whole thing is he's whines and he's blames Sydney for stealing the life that should have been his. And she starts not like making fun of him, but she's like, "Oh, why don't you quit whining? Like,
right.
come
Take some
on.
responsibility, motherfucker," is what she says.
Yes, that was the line.
Which was interesting because she uses the same cuss word, and the situation is almost the exact same as in what happens in the dark half. The wife says the same thing to George Starr. Bring it on, motherfucker, is what she says, or something like that. And it's interesting she uses that cuss word because that is a term for what happened to Sydney's mother to create him.
Yes.
Right. Which is interesting. But I like how she doesn't do girl power in that. She's like she's like, you know what? Fuck it. And she fights him.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of tripping. There's a lot of tripping up and hitting with bottles and all that kind of shit, which is annoying.
Right.
And shooting somebody and then the body disappears. Right. You see the arm drag. And then like she clearly gets shot she says, "Look what I have," right? And he says, "Look what I have." And he's got the gun, I like that part.
Yeah,
he's got the Derringer that he took from. Also, why is Soyface grabbing and punching Dewey and Hairline, Patrick Dempsey, right? McCreamy, but not stabbing them? Why doesn't he just kill them also?
That's a guy, which is
interesting. I mean, he clearly is punching them and then like knocking them out, and I guess because he's going after the girl or whatever. But then he shoots her in the chest and then clearly shoots her in the head. But it does. I couldn't remember what had happened to that part, and I was thinking, is this a prop gun? It would have made sense if it was a prop gun, but it was McCreamy's that he brought, so it wouldn't be a prop gun,
right?
Unless there were at that point two killers, So who knows?
I think he shot her in the stomach and then shot her in the chest.
He aims at her chest and then aims at her head.
Yeah, for some reason he doesn't hit her in the head though. Yeah, I don't really. Yeah. But
and then she pulls up her shirt and she's like, "I got an NYPD." Does it say NYPD on it?
Or it's LAPD.
Oh, it is LAPD.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then he reveals that he's also wearing a bulletproof vest, which is why Dewey shoots him like 7 times with a 6-shooter, and he doesn't die.
Yeah.
But it's funny because that's another slapstick thing, because that's when this goes back to when they're at the house and the house blows up and they roll down the hill.
Well, he shoots him 7 times with a 5 shell 38. Right?
Yeah.
Also, he shoots the mirrors out. Remember, he shot the mirrors out, and then he shot Parker Posey through the 2-way mirror.
Right.
Even after she was already stabbed. Oh, and that scene pissed me off because she's inside the mirror and she's banging on the mirror. You can see the mirror shaking. And he's like, "Is there something wrong in here? Do you hear something?" Okay, man.
Who's this person screaming and beating on these shaking mirrors?
Oh, it's just Robert Evans' house. Just leave it alone, right? Okay.
But it's and so Roman kind of reveals himself as having orchestrated Billy Loomis. Was that, I think it was the Matthew Lillard character from the first one, because he goes to Woodsboro, goes to the house, tells Maureen like, "Oh, hey, you're my mother," and she's like, "No, I only have a daughter," or whatever, like, "Go away." And so
he, get the fuck out of here, weird
kid.
He's
like, "Dude, freaking go away, weirdo." Yes. And so he, just flips out of her, starts stalking her, starts, taking photos of her having affairs, like cheating on Sydney's father. And then, so he goes and reveals to Billy Loomis that Maureen was having an affair with Billy's dad. And then he says, "Oh yeah, I just gave him a few pointers." He basically gave him, the motive and to be like, "Hey, look what your dad's doing." Oh,
he directed him in the movie of his own life, which is very reminiscent of DID serial killers, right? Where it seems like, tis 'tis but a painted devil, right? Says Lady
Yeah.
Macbeth. It's just a pictures. They're pictures in your mind. It's not real. And also you get to see yourself as the puppet master of this thing that occurs. And like Jamie Kennedy said, like the exposition may seem extraneous, but it's going to go back to the beginning. And we have the superhuman serial killer. Like he gets shot and then he keeps coming back, but that somewhere back in the past, the sins of the past will come to haunt you in the present, and that is the sins of his mother, really, of her mother, Nev Campbell's mother,
Right.
and father, right?
And that's he says that Milton gave away Maureen's innocence at these parties he was having, and he says that what him and his cohorts did to her, in his words, quote, made her a slut, and so that's why and that's like, unfortunately, you know, if you like that's unfortunately common with a lot of people who have these kind of experiences. They do, you know, engage in kind of promiscuous behavior. Not all of them, but that is something that has been noted in people who have, you know, been predated upon in
recreating the trauma. Yeah,
it's a recreation of the trauma, and so and then like I said, he blames her. He's like he has this misplaced blame. And he's very kind of, he's like a petulant sort of child, you know, he's like a man child, and that he can't take responsibility for himself. He you know, he's kind of myopic in a sense, like where that scene where, his cast is getting killed off and he's just like, is this going to be good for my career? Like, he's not really a functional human being. No one likes him. No one shows up to his birthday party. You know, the cast doesn't even know it's his birthday. Milton doesn't even show up. Like, nobody, and he doesn't, you know, like try to get some self-respect and you know, take which is not to say like, I mean, crappy things happen in people's lives, but it's like, you just got to take and make the best of it. And he doesn't.
He has a birthday party also, which is weird. Everybody show up to my birthday. He's engaged in infantile behavior, infantilism.
Yes.
I'm not saying it's wrong. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with having a birthday party.
Sure.
But if you're an adult man and you're having a birthday party, it better be a banger that's just a party.
Yeah, it's just like
a reason for having a party. It's not like you're having. I heard this. This has got to be fake. This 911 call. This woman called 911. She said, "There's children and there's a man pulling a dead animal out of some sort of top hat, and now they're beating a horse and they're pulling some sort of treats out of it." And he goes, "Ma'am, that's a child's birthday party." And she goes, and he goes, "Is there a birthday cake, ma'am?" And she goes, "You mean a pagan pie?" Yeah. And he goes, "Ma'am, you know, unfortunately, it's a small town, and that is quite a popular kid, and a lot of people weren't invited to that party." She says, "I want to report a hate crime."
Oh man, I hadn't heard that. That's hilarious.
Yeah, it's pretty good.
A pagan pie. I'm gonna go with that from now on. Like, are we having pagan pie?
Yeah. So if you're an adult man and you're like, "Come on for my pagan pie, bring presents," then you know you may be a serial killer.
Yeah, and that's scene. I mean, it's almost like condescending when Milton like kicks him out of his office and he's like, "Oh, you know, don't cut the cake until I'm there." And it's like, dude, you're like,
I'm never coming.
Like, you're 38 years old. Why are you having a birthday cake? Like, come on, man. Like, unless it's, you know, unless you're like, you know, your parents are throwing the party or something. Like, but anyway,
it's like those hoarders who save a piece of their cake from their 5th birthday.
Oh yeah,
in the fridge. I think there was a Family Guy episode about a woman who, she's like, "This is the hand that I shook, and I've never washed it since." And her hand is like blackened. Right? She's never touched her hand since she shook the hand of the celebrity. Gangrenous hand.
That's pretty funny. There's a part in there where like she stabs Roman with like an ornate sort of letter opener and like stabs him in the chest, and
it was it was an ice pick.
Oh, it was an ice pick?
Yeah. She pulls an ice pick out of the cocktail bucket.
Oh, that's what it. Yes, okay, that's what it was. Yeah, it was an ice pick, not a letter opener. And she stabs him in the chest, and he's laying on the ground, seemingly dying. And she kind of briefly, in this sort of poignant kind of moment, she, you know, kind of holds his hand, and then she gets up, and then he gets back up. And so Dewey starts shooting at him, and she's the one who starts yelling at Dewey, like, "Shoot him in the head, shoot him in the head."
Yes.
And so then Dewey And so it's kind of this switching from where it's like, oh, he's dying, she's going to hold his hand, because even though, he's been trying to kill her, he's been stalking her, like, they are still
superhuman
related, right?
And he says he speaks for Jamie Kennedy in that point, because he says, don't forget the killer can come back. Even when you think he's dead, he can come back. And then she speaks for the audience in telling him to do that. Right, because he keeps aiming at the chest. Right, it's stupid.
Yeah.
But yeah, they hold hands, so they're united as as I guess Gemini, right? Or just as brother and sister, united in death, their life and death. But then he gets up because he's still the monster, right? Yeah.
The last note I had on this was that they show back up at Sydney's house, and Kincaid comes out, and he's got a bowl of popcorn in his arms and the sling, and
we're gonna watch a movie.
He's like, oh, we're gonna watch a movie. She says, what kind? He says, come and see. And then
for fuck's sake, just say what the movie is.
Yeah, just say what it is. Just like say you're watching, I don't know, The Exorcist 3 or whatever.
No, bad choice. Say you're watching Ace Ventura.
That was a little Easter egg for all the Chad nerds out there. But yeah, so then her door opens, and it kind of like opens on its own. And you mentioned this earlier. It's just she turns around and kind of looks at it for a moment, and then just leaves it open and walks towards the movie room. Now, you mentioned this is, she's no longer afraid. I know you're much better with the symbolism than I am. Is there any kind of symbolism to like open doors beyond her just kind of not being afraid?
So it's ambiguous there. There's an ambiguity at the end, because we take it to mean that she is leaving the door open because she's no longer locking the door. And remember, at the beginning of the film, it's a bookend for the film, because at the beginning she locked the gate, she put on the alarm, and then she locked 3 locks on her door. And now she's okay with leaving the door open. It's also like she's leaving the door open to the past. She's comfortable with the past now, and she's comfortable with stepping out in the future. But it also, in a clever way, is leaving the door open for a sequel, as if something else can come in.
Right.
But yeah, as far as leaving the door, the only things with doors are it's bad luck to leave out of a different door than you came in. You people put salt over their door to stop the creepy crawly witches coming in, right? Or to put a mirror. You're not supposed to put a mirror beside the door, because it's like a portal. It's like a mirrors on outside walls like that, where doors are supposed to be portals to the outside.
Interesting.
But yeah, I guess that's about it. But she's leaving the door open for a sequel, but also her future is this house. I have exorcised the demons. This house is clear. Right. You got to see the American Dad episode where they get poltergeisted. It's very good. And I only say that because Patrick Warburton, of course, who's in this is in Family Guy, but that's a very, very good episode.
Was he the guy that did the voice? Did you ever see the movie The Emperor's New Groove?
No, but he's done a lot of voice work, so it would not surprise me if he's in that.
He was in an animated kids movie. There's the guy who plays like the antagonist. It's like sidekick. Yeah. He's not he's not like a villainous kind of character. He's just kind of this, just kind of like dumb jock sort of character. It sounds just like him. I don't know if it's the same guy or not, but
he's the guy he's Joe Swanson in Family Guy, right?
Yeah.
Who wears short shorts? I wear short shorts. One day a real rain's gonna come and wash the scum off the streets.
Classic.
Yeah.
Do you have anything else? That was everything I had on this one.
That's good. I don't remember Scream 4, but I wish they had stopped with Scream 3. A trilogy is the good way to wrap it up. And then I haven't seen the reboot. I guess they rebooted it for the new one, and maybe they have a Scream 2 even. And that's the thing. I mean, they almost leave the door open for that in terms of endless sequels for the franchise, and Wes Craven died in like 2015, so that's over, but there's still, there's got to keep that money machine rolling. But the first 3 are very good because there's such a subversion, but now they need to make a new thing. There needs to be a new thing. Barbarian was a good new horror movie. There are good horror movies. I still think that The Witch and Hereditary are sort of a new golden age in horror movies. They're so well done.
Yeah.
Um, and but yeah, I mean, it's interesting how horror crossed over somehow into this revelatory thing. I mean, but there needs to be a new horror movie. Hey, maybe the book that I write will end up being published and then will end up being made into a film, which will set the new thing. I mean,
that'd be cool.
Finish the book, but hey,
yeah,
because it's about a teen. The speaker, the protagonist, is a teen in the movie, so maybe that'll be the case. And I can only do that, really. You can help me do that if you support us. So if anybody here would like to support this endeavor that we've just done, we would appreciate that you send some support over to Cash App at Marvin Gardens. You need to get a Dono Chat and a PayPal.
yes,
and send those links out, because people are very generous. People in our spheres are extremely generous. And so, they don't have to, but it's obviously, but I know that we have a extremely generous audience. And so those people would help you out and would support us for our time, even though we did this for fun. And this is good times. And I'm really glad that we did this. This was a great movie to review. What's the last one that we did?
We did Looper.
Looper, that's right. You guys go back and watch all of Maddie's streams on this channel. Go watch the streams that we've done. We've done some movie analysis. And my shameless self-plug is that next Saturday, of course, I'll be doing Natural Born Killers, Oliver Stone film. Very good. That movie is so good because, for a number of reasons. But one is, everybody should have seen by now the interview that Woody Harrelson did with Barbara Walters, where she talks about, do you think it makes a difference, Barbara Wawa? Do you think it makes a difference that your father was trained by the CIA? Do I think it makes a difference? Yeah, I think it makes a difference, right? Because his father was a CIA trained contract killer and assassin who assassinated a federal judge. And he did time for that. And that guy, the judge, was part of the Dixie Mafia case relating to Cocaine Bear. That's why they weren't caught. And also, he supposedly was involved with the event in '63 in November. He may have been one of the guys, or may have been one of the tramps. But I think he had something to do with it. Charles Harrelson. And it's interesting that Woody Harrelson plays a serial killer in the movie. Wayne Gale, Robert Downey Jr., one of his great roles, probably his best role besides Two Girls and a Guy, Tropic Thunder. He says, we're here on Highway 666, right? He's playing a Geraldo character. And the movie is very good. It's very good. It's got a great soundtrack too, with Cowboy Junkie, Sweet Jane. L7 is on the soundtrack. And it's got Boomer Garcia Indians in it. It's got apparently Oliver Stone was wild on the set of that movie. And it's very, very good. 1994 Natural Born Killers with Woody Harrelson. So I'll be doing that next Saturday with Jim Bob. Also go back and watch my stream from last night on the dark half. Watch the stream from the night before on Spooky Season 2 with the night creatures of the night, Wolf, Let the Right One In, Byzantium, Candyman. Sometime this week, I'll be doing an H.G. Wells stream on War of the Worlds and the Island of Dr. Moreau. And then I'll be doing a stream on the Ninth Configuration / Twinkle Twinkle Killer Kane. And I have a bunch of sponsor streams coming up. If you want to sponsor a stream, you can help me out on my PayPal or Cash App or Venmo over on my channel or channel description, Baselit Analyzer. Go to one of those and drop those. I'll be doing an anime stream coming up on Perfect Blue. So bunch of stuff coming up. What about you, Maddie?
I was going to say, I will admit I'm a little bit behind. I think I missed your last two streams. Really looking forward to the Byzantium stream, though. I have not seen that film yet, but I saw it somewhere online. It was like a set of frames from the film, and it was like a river of blood or something.
Yep.
There was like something with, and it was like visually striking. The colors were just incredible, and I was like, I have to watch this film. I haven't watched it yet, but I'm gonna catch up on those streams, and I'm gonna watch that film. And yeah, I'm working on this book has been challenging. It's a short book. I also was working on this one, then I got really sick and I've been busy with work. So this one Drug Cartels Do Not Exist by Oswaldo Zavala. I'm working on that one right now. It's a short book. It's only like 160 pages, but it's been challenging. And so that one's going to be. I'm hoping to do that one maybe next week, and then there was another. I have a few others I'm still working on, and I know this channel kind of started off as like being history focused, and we do have more history streams coming, I promise. I know we've mostly done like news analysis and movies, and we do whatever here. We talk about whatever we want over here, and we are going to do that TV stream, by the way, so y'all make sure to tune in for that. We're going to talk about TV shows, and then I have another Spooktober movie I want to do, and I can talk to you about. I don't know if you want to do that one. I haven't watched it. It's a film. I'm not going to say what it is because I've never seen anybody analyze it, and I'm paranoid about getting scooped on it. Then I'm going to say what it is, and then someone else is going to come along and get it before
Just say
me.
What's the movie? What's the movie?
No, I'm not going to say. I'll tell you.
Oh man.
But this is one I heard about this film several years ago, and
a movie that Maddie heard about several years ago coming up on my channel tomorrow night. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah, check that one out at Baselit Analyzer tomorrow night. But this is one I heard about. It came out a while back, and I heard about it, and I was like, that sounds interesting. And you just couldn't find the film anywhere. I mean, it was just like I looked and looked and looked, could not find it. Finally found a DVD copy on Amazon from a third-party seller that I got for like $13. And then I found the movie. Apparently, the movie's streaming now too for free. But I was like,
what
whatever.
Year was the movie? Just tell me what year it was.
I'll tell you off stream.
Okay.
I don't want to get. I feel like I've said too much. I mean, this channel's tiny. Like, I don't think I'm going to get scooped by anybody. But so I haven't watched that one yet. But I did finally get the DVD copy of it, so I might see about doing that one. Then, like I said, we got the Drug Cartels Do Not Exist stream coming. Michaela and I are still working on our metal stream, so we're going to be doing that one hopefully soon. I got to talk to him about that one. And then, other than that, I'm not sure. Might have another literature stream coming up. Trying to decide. But yeah, I just want to say huge thank you to everybody for tuning in today. This was a heck of a lot of fun. I've been wanting to do this stream since before I even started the channel. I was like, that would be a fun one to analyze. Thank you everybody for hanging out in the chat. We have a great chat.
Jason. Yeah, thank you to Jason for holding it down. Thank you to Dancing K, who's new here. So appreciate that. Please make sure that you like the stream and share it because we need to get the numbers up for Maddie, especially in terms of subs and people watching. I mean, we do this for fun anyway, but in terms of people watching, and I need to get the numbers up for my channel too. I mean, the numbers are down across everybody.
Yeah.
But the numbers are down, and we need to get those. We need to get those numbers up. Right. I'm trying to get. I need to be getting over 1,000 for every stream now. And so, but you look at numbers across the board, everybody, it's, that's the way, who knows? But, I need to get those numbers up. So please like and share both of our independent streams, the work that we do for the good and for, glory to God and for you guys. And, I think it's important to, it seems like that on the surface, like it would be frivolous analyzing movies, but it's not. It's everybody knows it's not frivolous because this is the way that the culture goes. And these things reveal things for the future and for the present time. And it's important. It's important to do that. It's important to read and to watch art and to listen to music and to watch movies. It is important. I mean, that's why they exist. And it's also fun. It's also fun, of course, to do this, especially for Spooktober. I love Halloween. Today was, I woke up and it was the perfect day. It was like, I walked through the house and it was dark. And then I went to the kitchen and it was raining, slightly in the window. And I went, oh yes, this is my day. If it's supposed to get into the 40s tonight and it's, cooler and dark and raining. So I immediately put on 10 Years Gone by Led Zeppelin. Nice. And then I always, my whole life, really, well, I went to a laser light show with my best friend at the planetarium, in the IMAX planetarium in 7th grade and saw Laser Zeppelin. And that, it was in the fall and it changed my life. I mean, it really did. Was one of those things that changed my life. Every fall I listened to Physical Graffiti, and Song Remains the Same albums, and I love listening to that in a dark fall. It's just, I lived in dark Ulster for 3 years, and in England for 2 years, and Virginia is a great place for fall and for autumn, with kind of medieval mystical music, so it's cool to do those things, but people should do those and enjoy life, right? And like Tommy Lee Jones says in the meme, right? Was it worth it? Yeah, it was worth it if you're strong enough, right?
100%.
You got to be strong enough. So everybody out there, you got to be strong enough. All right, that's all I got.
No, that's good. Yeah, and huge yes, thank you. I saw Dancing K said in the chat, first time here, good show. Thank you for that. I always, that's one of the I like when people stick around, but whenever I see new people, and I've been taking Dr. Crispy's advice, and I don't read the chat as much as I used to. I'll keep an eye on it, but we have great mods over there who weed out any weirdos. But yeah, huge shout out to Dancing K. Whenever somebody's like, oh yeah, I'm new here, it's like, hey, thank you, glad you're here, and hope you stick around. So yeah, thanks to everybody. Share the streams, leave comments. That's a huge help is when people leave comments, and I know sometimes it takes me a while to get back to people. I always do. Well, there might be like one or two people I haven't gotten back to yet, but I always try to get back to everybody, and I do always read and appreciate all the comments. So this was a lot of fun. Thank you, BLA, for coming and hanging out. Always like having you on the show. And I think that's it. So yeah, I don't have anything else. And look for that TV stream. I'm not kidding. We actually are going to do that. But yeah, we'll see y'all soon. And thanks again.
Godspeed. Peace.